The noble prince fell in love with the dancer at first sight. Her smooth dancing and beautiful face made it impossible for him to look away, and his mind was completely hooked on her every soft move. The very next day, the prince went to his fiancée to call off the engagement. He told her straight up that he had met the true love of his life, even though she was so hurt that her eyes turned red. His fiancée finally chose to let go, accepting it to make the man she loved happy. Leaving there, the prince immediately went to the dancer's house. Her name was Keo. As she gently made tea and served it to him, the prince's eyes still didn't leave her face. Facing that deep stare, Keo shyly bowed her head a little, which made his heart skip a beat even more. Noticing the prince's clear feelings, Keo's parents quickly started to scheme. In their eyes, if they could become family with the royals, it would be the greatest honor like nothing else. Because of that, they secretly planned to push this match forward. But what they didn't know was that Keo was ignoring him on purpose, because she had already given her whole heart to someone else. That person was a young master from a rich family in another town. The two of them had promised to be together forever. Their love was deep, and she was even 1 month pregnant with his little baby. A week later, Keo's father told her that Prince Noi had personally come to the house to ask for her hand in marriage, and in just half a month, the wedding would be held to bring her to his mansion. Hearing the news, Keo immediately said no, firmly stating that she already had someone she loved. However, her father didn't accept it at all. In his eyes, a daughter choosing her own love was something he couldn't forgive. Not only did he doubt that young master's background, but he was also strictly against marrying his daughter off to a strange, faraway place. Even though Keo cried and begged, wishing to get her way, he didn't change his mind at all. Seeing her daughter so hopeless, Keo's mom also spoke up to beg for her, hoping her husband wouldn't force their child when she wasn't willing. But as the head of the family, the father didn't allow anyone to question his choice, and he definitely didn't accept his daughter disobeying his orders. He immediately grounded Keo, locking her in her room until the wedding day. Stuck in this dead end, Keo's only choice was to have someone sneak a letter to her lover. In that letter, she promised her heart would never change, but also choked up admitting that they weren't meant to be in this lifetime. She could only send a fragile wish, that if there was a next life, the two of them could be together forever. When he heard the news that the woman he loved was about to be married off to someone else, Din couldn't accept his own helplessness. He decided to bet everything, making a plan to help Keo run away in the night. That night, he hired people to cause a mess to distract the servants in the house. Taking advantage of when everyone had their guard down, he sneaked up and suddenly struck a servant from behind, making him pass out. The hired guy stood guard outside, while he rushed into Keo's room, taking her away in silence. Love makes people reckless and blind. Without any hesitation, Keo decided to leave everything behind, following the man she loved to a strange land, just hoping to find her own happiness. However, the news of her running away quickly reached the ears of Prince Noi. Right in the middle of the night, he immediately got on his horse, leading his men to chase after them without stopping. Meanwhile, on the run, Keo cuddled into her lover's arms, carrying a fragile hope. As soon as the boat reached the shore, they would be able to start a new life. But right at that moment, a gunshot rang out, tearing through the quiet night. The prince had caught up. Din immediately pulled out his gun, his eyes full of anger, facing the powerful prince. However, facing such a huge difference in power, he was quickly pinned down by the prince's men, thrown down onto the grass in pain. With no other choice, Keo quickly fell to her knees, begging desperately. She agreed to go back and get married, just hoping to trade it for the safety of the man she loved. The prince asked her to stand up, but Keo firmly stayed kneeling there, stating that she wouldn't leave her spot if he didn't agree to her terms. In a fit of anger, the prince reached into his vest pocket as if he was about to pull something out. At that moment, Keo's heart felt like it was squeezed tight. She knew she had really made him mad. But what happened next was totally unexpected. The prince just quietly took out a silver hairpin, shaped like a delicate orchid. It was a gift that he had specially asked someone to make, originally planning to give it to her on their wedding night. But now everything had changed. Facing the harsh reality, the prince chose to let go. He didn't hold her back, but let Keo and the man she loved leave. Maybe when you love someone to the very end, you can only choose to let them be happy. He accepted giving her up to someone else, even though his heart still held all those feelings. Before parting ways, the prince coldly warned Din that he must treat Keo well, or else no matter where they were, he would get justice for her. Those words were not just a threat, but also the last bit of care he had left. After a long night, Keo finally followed her lover back to his house. However, the hope that had just sparked was quickly shadowed by a feeling of unease. She was worried that his family wouldn't accept her, and that became the truth. Din's mother, Mai, acted cold and even harsh toward the sudden appearance of a daughter-in-law falling out of nowhere. She bluntly declared that she would never accept Keo. In the middle of the suffocating, tense mood, Din's father walked in and seemed more open, somewhat calming the situation down. However, when she found out Keo was pregnant, Mai's pushback got even harsher. In her eyes, that just proved even more that she wasn't good enough for her son. Because of love, Keo gave up everything, cut ties with her family, and left her hometown to follow the man she loved. But facing the cruel reality, the road ahead of her suddenly became blurry. The happiness she once believed in, did it really exist? Or was it just a fragile dream that easily breaks? In another turn of events, Ka, the fiancée whose engagement was called off by the prince, became the center of gossip among the rich folks. Her reputation took a heavy hit, making her the laughingstock at dinner parties many times. To save face, Ka's mother quickly set up a new marriage for her. Being a traditional girl, Ka didn't object, accepting to step into the marriage decided by her family. However, behind the flashy looks of her new fiancé was a really disappointing truth. That lord named Thong had been sneaking around with a maid in the mansion. Late one night, Aum took the lead and went to his room, using her beauty to seduce him. When a spark is near dry straw for a long time, it catches fire, and right on that night she got what she wanted. Even so, in the eyes of the lord, the maid Aum was nothing but a quick fling. The person he really wanted to marry as his main wife was still Ka, a princess with a noble background, beautiful looks, and smarts that made him happy. Watching all of this, Aum couldn't help but feel jealous. She was forced to watch the man she was once close with grandly propose to Ka, while she was just bringing hurt upon herself. That harsh truth shattered her dream of changing her life. The tragedy didn't stop there. Not long after, Aum found out she was pregnant. To hide the truth and find someone to step up and take the responsibility, she quickly turned to Fu, a young guy who had secretly loved her for a long time. With just a few sweet words, she easily won his heart. Right that night, the two of them crossed the line, tying each other down in a relationship with no turning back. The next morning, Aum went to the lord, letting him know that she was going to marry Fu, as a way to purposely get a reaction out of him. But completely opposite to what she hoped for, the lord totally didn't care. To him, that matter wasn't worth worrying about. The only thing that made him feel a little sorry was probably just that from now on, he wouldn't have someone to serve him during the long nights. Time quietly went by, and Aum's belly also grew bigger day by day. In her heart, she still held on to false hopes about the lord, having no idea that he had already held his wedding with Ka. With her noble status, the one who could step into the lord's mansion as the main wife could, of course, only be a high-class lady like her. As the due date got closer, Fu innocently asked her when he noticed something weird, wondering why she looked like she was about to give birth when it had only been 7 months. That question made Aum panic for a second, so she quickly brushed it off, acting annoyed to cover up the truth. However, before she could even deal with it, right as she walked upstairs, she suddenly showed signs of going into labor. Inside the poor wooden house, she gave birth to a baby, the result of her affair with the lord. The child carried royal blood, a background that wasn't ordinary at all, as if it was destined to be tied to big events in the future. 3 years later, Ka and the lord also had a cute daughter named Do. They lived in luxury, having a full and peaceful life. In total contrast, Aum's baby Play grew up in poverty, wearing torn clothes and eating only simple meals. As Play grew older, Aunt Dee, a longtime worker in Lord Thong's house, started to notice something weird. The more she looked, the more she saw that the little girl didn't look like anyone in Fu's family. After watching her closely for a while, she suddenly remembered something, and her face immediately changed. Pointing a shaking finger at the child, she realized that face looked weirdly similar to the lord. Seeing that reaction, Aum just slightly smirked, giving a calculating smile. To her, this child was never just a simple daughter, but an important chess piece, kept around waiting for the day to stir up trouble. One day, little Play toddled around and accidentally wandered into the back garden, where the rich kids were playing around. Like there was an invisible string pulling her, the little girl didn't pay any attention to the other kids, but walked straight toward the crib where her half-sister was lying. Standing in front of the baby who wasn't even weaned yet, Play suddenly stopped, and her eyes held a look that was hard to describe. Right at that moment, Ka and the others stepped out of the room, and suddenly seeing a strange kid near her baby, she quickly rushed over. However, being a kind-hearted person, Ka wasn't harsh, but just gently asked Play whose family she belonged to. Standing behind her, the lord couldn't hide his curiosity either, so he called the little girl to come closer. But right when he picked Play up in his arms, his face suddenly changed. He froze, totally speechless, as if a strong gut feeling just hit him, that this baby was his own daughter. After pulling himself together, the lord tried to stay calm and asked about the little girl's background. And right at that moment, after so many years apart, the Aum from the past showed up, slowly walking toward them. Another servant standing nearby immediately questioned who she was, not hiding their guard at all. Unexpectedly, Aum coldly looked straight at the lord, as if forcing him to speak up himself. Feeling a bit guilty, Lord Thong just vaguely said that she used to be a maid in the mansion, living here since she was little. The mood immediately got tense. Right then, Ka gently spoke up to break the silence, praising that Play looked really cute. But that compliment made Aum clench her jaw, and her voice carried a bitter tone as she said that no matter how good her daughter was, she could never compare to the daughter of a princess. Those seemingly simple words were actually a sharp point aimed right at the lord, but Ka totally missed the deep hidden meaning behind them. After that, Aum turned around and told Play, her voice cold and firm. She didn't allow her daughter to ever come back to this place again, because in her mind, that was no place for lowly people like them. Watching the little girl walk away, the lord couldn't help but get lost in his thoughts. That gut feeling inside made him restless, so he secretly followed Aum to clearly ask about Play's background. Facing that question, Aum denied it without a second thought, confirming the baby was hers and Fu's, and had absolutely nothing to do with a noble lord like him. However, between the two of them, There seemed to be an invisible connection that was hard to explain. Suddenly, Play reached her hand up, gently touching the Lord's cheek. That tiny gesture totally shook his heart. In that moment, he was almost 100% sure that this was his own flesh and blood daughter. But before he could clear things up, quickly grabbed her child and walked away, stubbornly sticking to her story about who the kid really was. In the end, the Lord just had to tell himself that he was overthinking things, and could only stand there watching the mother and daughter fade out of sight. Time passed by in the blink of an eye, and suddenly 13 years had gone by. Play had now become a beautiful, energetic young girl who couldn't sit still for a minute. One day, while taking a walk on the street, she happened to pass by a lord's mansion. Right from that moment, the wheels of fate started turning once again. Drawn to the mangoes on the tree, Play sneaked up to steal some. Unexpectedly, that action made her bump into a young master named Pa, whom she used to play with when they were little. Sadly, that guy didn't remember anything about the past. Not long after, Pooh also showed up. The little boys from back then had now grown up, looking handsome and sharp. Meanwhile, Ka's daughter had also grown up, becoming a sweet and lovely young lady. From here on, the bond between these people who seemed like total strangers started to be woven together. Even though they shared the same bloodline, Play and her younger sister had completely opposite fates. Every day, Play had to follow her mom to sell vegetables, living a hard life, and she often became a punching bag whenever her mom was unhappy. On the flip side, Do was deeply loved by the Lord, living a full life in luxury, and sometimes even getting precious gifts like a fancy doll that took a lot of effort to find and buy in those days. The group went out to the back garden to have fun without even knowing that Play was quietly hiding on the wall, peeking at them. Pooh kept losing, so he started feeling embarrassed, and the mood between the two brothers slowly got tense. Noticing that, Do quickly told the servant to bring out some snacks to cool things down. The colorful fancy sweet cakes laid out right in front of her eyes made Play crave them so much that she practically couldn't look away. A while later, the two young masters asked each other to go play tennis, promised to come back another day, and then left together. Do stood there to see them off, while Play still stared blankly at the backs of the two guys, her eyes full of curiosity and admiration. It wasn't until Do noticed the strange girl being there that Play snapped out of it, panicking and trying to run away. But opposite to what she expected, Do didn't blame her at all and even invited her in to eat some cake. Being treated so nicely, Play was super happy, grabbing the cake and eating it eagerly. Those were yummy treats she had never tasted before, and she couldn't stop saying how good they were while eating. The two girls quickly became close, chatting happily without knowing that they were actually blood-related. Seeing Play enjoying it so much, Do generously let her take more cake home. Right at that moment, the Lord walked into the back garden. Out of habit, Play quickly tried to run away. Do calmed her down, saying that it was just her dad and there was no need to be scared. But when the Lord saw Play, he froze right away. As for Play, she totally didn't know that the man in front of her was her real dad. So she just looked at him shyly and quickly turned her back to leave, without even saying a word. After that, when he heard Do mention the name Play, the memories from years ago suddenly flooded back into the Lord's mind. So many years had passed, but the image of that little girl had never faded. A gut feeling that was hard to explain made it impossible for him to ignore it. When he found out that Play was making a living by selling vegetables in a poor neighborhood, he immediately went to find her. Over there, the sight in front of his eyes made everything feel heavy. As soon as she saw the Lord, Alm's bitterness immediately bubbled up. To let out her anger, she didn't hesitate to slap Play really hard, yelling at her and scolding her for being slow and lazy. Not stopping there, she even grabbed a stick and hit the girl over and over again. Play cried in pain and begged, but her mom's anger still didn't cool down. An auntie nearby couldn't bear to watch, so she quickly rushed in to stop it. However, Alm just screamed even louder, and her harsh words weren't just for Play but also seemed aimed right at the Lord, blaming fate, the unfairness, and everything she had to go through. In her bitter rage, Alm continued to drag Play around, giving her another beating. Unable to take that sight anymore, the Lord could only turn his back and walk away in the middle of the messy market, carrying a feeling of guilt that he couldn't even put a name to. One day, Alm took Play to pick flowers. On the way, she still didn't forget to yell at her daughter a few times like always. But unexpectedly, just a moment later, Alm suddenly felt dizzy and her head was spinning. In less than a few minutes, she passed out right on the spot. Play panicked and quickly cried out for help in despair. That cry happened to reach Kao, who was nearby. Without any hesitation, Kao ran over to help, and then took the mother and daughter back to her house. She cared for them warmly, bringing warm water for Alm, showing how kind and thoughtful she was. Kao showing up in this place is a long story. More than 10 years ago, she refused to step into a marriage with the royal family to follow the man she loved to a strange land. Back then, she believed that love could overcome anything. But the reality after marriage was totally different. Without her own family to lean on, Kao was constantly given a hard time by her mother-in-law, who always found excuses to bully her. The husband she once trusted with all her heart also slowly became distant, often coming home very late, leaving her all alone in a cold room. The happiness she had traded everything to chase after, in the end, wasn't what she had dreamed of. Over 10 more years passed by, and the father-in-law, the only one who loved her, sadly passed away. This made her situation even harder. Luckily, she still had an understanding daughter named Sam. Every time the grandma bullied Kao, Sam would go tell her dad, so he could get justice for her mom. This husband still had some conscience left. Every time he would step up to protect Kao, not letting his mom bully her. To kick out this annoying daughter-in-law, the evil mother-in-law found a distant relative who had tuberculosis, and then asked Kao to take care of this relative. But she lied and said it was just a normal flu, totally not telling Kao that this relative had tuberculosis. Day by day, Kao put her whole heart into taking care of the sick person. But she soon found out she had also fallen ill. In the middle of the night, she wanted to cough but was afraid of waking up her husband, so she had to step out of the room before she dared to cough. Unexpectedly, she saw a bunch of servants carrying the dead body of the relative away. Right then, she finally knew she had caught tuberculosis. Som felt things were unfair for her mom, saying that the grandma purposely wanted to harm her. Din warned Som not to make up lies about her grandma. The father and daughter got into a huge fight. However, luckily thanks to Som's stubbornness, the whole family finally moved to Bangkok. Kao finally escaped from her mother-in-law's claws. The madam saw that Kao's family was pretty well off, so she sent Play over to work as a helper. Kao happily agreed, thinking having an extra hand to help out was good too. So from that day on, Play started coming to Kao's house to clean up. The little girl tiptoed into Som's room. Right when she saw her standing in front of the mirror taking care of her looks, looking at the pretty clothes on Som, Play couldn't hide her admiration, blurting out a few compliments. However, in response to that pure honesty was a look of disgust. Som tilted her chin up, coldly throwing shade, saying that clothes like that weren't something a poor girl like Play could ever reach for. When lunchtime came, Play followed the yummy smell of food and found her way to the dining room. Seeing the little girl peeking in, Kao gently called her over, inviting her to join the meal. Meanwhile, Som was carefully carving veggies to make them look nice on the plate. Seeing that, Play innocently asked why she had to do things that seemed so extra, which made Som even more annoyed. Being snobby by nature, Som always dreamed of changing her life, hoping one day to marry into a rich family to step foot into high society. But she had no idea that the person she always looked down on, Play, was actually a true lady carrying a noble bloodline. Feeling upset, Play ran over to Do's house, taking the chance to eat a huge full meal there. Do even brought out her doll for Play to play with. Seeing that Play liked it so much, the girl generously gave it to Play to keep. Getting home that night, Play told the story about getting a doll from Do. Asked where the kid went, and only then found out that Play had gone to the palace. This made her even more jealous and bitter, scolding Play for having no pride, picking up stuff that people didn't want to play with anymore and thinking she had met a good person. But Play didn't care about her mom's words. The next day, Play went to the palace again to hang out, playing house with Do. Ka was really happy that Do had a new friend, so she brought out a basket of Do's clothes to give to Play. Do immediately pulled Play away to change into a gorgeous dress. Play was so touched and thanked Ka and Do. This was the first time in her life she got to wear such beautiful clothes. Do quickly ran back to her room to get a hair clip for Play, leaving the girl standing all alone in the room. Right at that moment the Lord came back. As soon as he walked in and saw the little figure standing in front of him in a familiar outfit, he didn't doubt it at all but immediately gave a kind smile, gently praising her, calling her his sweet daughter, and didn't hold back his compliments on her pretty and neat looks. However, the moment the little girl turned her head, everything changed. The person standing in front of him wasn't Do, but Play, the kid who was wearing Do's clothes. That mix-up happened so naturally that neither of them had time to react. As for Play, she was stunned, and a feeling hard to describe swelled up inside her. From childhood until now, she always believed she was just a poor kid, living a hard life, never daring to dream about luxury things. Yet right now, she was putting on the beautiful clothes of a powerful family, standing in front of her own real dad, whom she knew nothing about, but in the role of a servant, even kneeling down with deep respect. At that moment, the irony of fate seemed to pile up, making the room go totally quiet, filled with twisted truths that even the people involved couldn't see yet. That night, Play wore Do's dress, excitedly showing it off to her younger siblings. The gorgeous dress made everyone say wow, and the little kids all begged to try it on. But Play quickly said no, saying she hadn't even worn it enough herself, her voice not hiding her excitement. Right then walked out, mumbling curses under her breath. Seeing Play in the fancy dress, she immediately threw some shade, mocking that she was wearing someone else's hand-me-downs but was still so proud of it. But Play didn't feel ashamed at all. Instead, she happily replied that Do had given her a lot of stuff. Hearing that, Aum's eyes suddenly changed. Her voice dropped low, carrying an unpredictable meaning, like she was hiding something behind it. She quietly said that those things were supposed to belong to her in the first place. But Play didn't mind those words, still carelessly lost in the simple joy of wearing such a pretty dress for the first time. Early the next morning, Play went to Som's place to show off the dress. The blue tie-style dress made Som a little jealous. She acted all high and mighty and asked whose clothes Play had stolen, saying that Play's country look didn't match this dress at all. Play talked back to Som a few times, and then went to find Do as usual. She looked up and suddenly realized it was already 6 p.m. Play quickly stood up to go home, scared that if she went back late, she would get a beating from her mom. Do gave Play the book that she hadn't finished reading yet. Lately, thanks to Do showing her, Play has started learning how to read the book she never got to touch before. Before she left, she turned around and ran into the Lord. The Lord hesitated for a long time, then asked how Aum was doing lately. Play didn't think twice about it and told him that her mom just did laundry, cooked, watched the kids, and also sold vegetables at the market. That night, Play told her mother about this, saying that the Lord even asked about her. Aum's face immediately softened. She didn't think that after all these years, the Lord would still remember her. This made Aum's heart, which was full of hate, suddenly change a bit, as if a tiny bit of hope was starting to grow, but she didn't even know what she was hoping for. One day, Play went to play with Do. Before she even reached the back garden, she saw Do sitting with Pooh. Do mentioned that lately she had been close friends with Play. Unexpectedly, Pooh said straight out that Play was shady and told a nice, naive girl like Do that she shouldn't play with her. However, Do said Play was her friend and told Pooh not to talk trash about her friend. Play was standing in a corner and heard their whole conversation. She felt really sad knowing that in other people's eyes she looked that bad. But Play quickly pushed that aside and went over to Do to talk smack about Pooh, saying he was both ugly and nosy with a mean mouth. But what Play didn't see coming was that Pooh was already standing right behind her. When she realized it, she spun around in shock, while Pooh was so mad he could barely hold it in. Seeing how tense things were, Do quickly stepped in to make peace and even asked Pooh to stay for lunch. While Do went to tell the servants to get the food ready, the mood between Play and Pooh got really awkward. She wanted to say something to break the ice, but the annoyed look on Pooh's face made her swallow her words. When the food was served, Pooh immediately asked them to take Play's plate away, saying straight up that he didn't like eating with strangers. Even though Do tried to talk him out of it, he still insisted on kicking her out. Feeling insulted, Play stood right up and didn't stay a second longer. After leaving there, she went to find Sam. Since Sam's brother went to school with Pa, she knew him a little. Since she was starving, Play shamelessly joined their picnic. She thought to herself that these people were high class and would definitely look down on her anyway, so she didn't even bother to care and just focused on filling her stomach. She ate naturally, even a bit too fast, not knowing that Sam was looking at her with total disgust, judging her for having no manners. But in front of Pa, Sam tried to act all sweet and understanding. In her eyes, Pa wasn't just from a noble family, but his family also owned a big bank, making him the perfect target for her to get into high society. If she could become his wife, a future of wealth and luxury would almost be in her hands. Watching that fancy, fake behavior, Play standing next to her couldn't help but feel annoyed. To annoy Sam, she on purpose mentioned Do, saying that lately she really missed Pa and hoped for a chance to meet again. Sure enough, just hearing that name, Sam's face changed immediately. When Pa accidentally mentioned that he and Do grew up together since they were little, Sam saw Do as a love rival even more. Even so, she still tried to act friendly, even suggesting bringing Do along to play next time. Deep down, she just wanted to see for herself what that girl was really like, to compare who was more outstanding between the two of them. Coming from a poor background, Keo had to deal with all kinds of bullying from her mother-in-law after becoming a daughter-in-law. Not only that, she also secretly arranged another marriage for her son, clearly wanting to push this unmatched daughter-in-law out of the house. At first, the husband had no intention of marrying another wife. However, as soon as he saw Calm, he was immediately drawn to her beauty. In just a moment, the image of his hard-working wife at home seemed to be brushed aside by him. In the garden full of flower scents, the two of them walked together. The husband blurted out that the flowers smelled good, while Calm gently explained they were orchids, which would give off a soft scent in season. When she lightly lifted a flower and leaned in close to smell it, her charm under the flowers became even more outstanding. The man couldn't help himself and blurted out a compliment, his eyes not hiding his obsession. That night, Calm's image kept lingering in his mind. He smiled to himself, completely lost in thoughts about the beauty. Meanwhile, Keo still quietly did her duties, bringing hot milk to her husband. But in his eyes, she had long lost her spark, becoming just a familiar, dull wife. The next day, he suggested taking Keo to a party for the high-class folks. But Keo knew well that she had been away from that world for too long, no longer the radiant dancer from years ago. Afraid of making her husband lose face, she chose to say no. That choice accidentally made it easy for the husband to feel okay about staying close to Calm. At the party, Calm stood out in the crowd in a red dress. When the music started playing, the husband asked her to dance. Under the lights and music, the distance between them seemed to get smaller and smaller. The sweet words he said to Calm were heartbreakingly familiar, because those were the exact words he used to say to Keo in the past. A woman's intuition is always really sharp. Keo vaguely felt like something was wrong, but she couldn't put a finger on it. She told her husband about a dream in which he left her and walked away. But instead of comforting her, her husband acted annoyed, brushed it off and said she was just overthinking. That day, while she was home alone, Keo suddenly felt tired. She sat down to rest by the table when she suddenly heard a car stop in front of the door. A luxury car appeared, and the person who stepped out was the prince from years ago, the one who had given her all his love. Having just returned to the country, the first thing he did was look for Keo. Even though more than 10 years had passed, in his eyes she hadn't changed at all. She was still as beautiful and charming as ever. The two of them stood facing each other, silent for a moment, as if time had suddenly turned back. It took a while before the prince softly called her name. After that, Keo quickly knelt down to show respect, as if she suddenly remembered the high status of the person in front of her. But the prince quickly helped her stand up, gently telling her that she didn't need to follow those rules anymore. After that, they both went into the living room. The prince asked about her life over all those years, his voice sounding both caring and quiet. When she mentioned her husband, Keo just smiled and said she was loved, totally hiding all the loneliness and unfairness she had silently dealt with for so long. A few days later, Calm went to Keo's house intending to clear things up. But when she saw Keo's happy family and children, her heart felt really heavy. She didn't want to break up such a warm family or hurt an innocent, devoted wife. Meanwhile, the mother-in-law kept pushing her son to marry Calm within the month. When he resisted, she immediately started attacking Keo, constantly putting her daughter-in-law down. In her words, Calm was an outstanding, educated girl who had even studied abroad, and she totally deserved to be the main wife. As for Keo, she was mocked as a countrywoman who only knew how to cook all year round, not worthy of standing on the same level as her son. Although she didn't ask her son to kick Keo out, she came up with a plan that was even more cruel, demoting her to a second wife and giving the main wife spot to Calm. To her, it seemed like a compromise, but it was actually a way to make replacing her official, stomping on Keo's status and self-respect. The husband was swayed by his mother's words. He also thought that Keo wasn't good enough for him anymore. That night, Calm was still thinking about what happened during the day. Her mom walked in and said the wedding date was set, telling Calm to start picking out a wedding dress. But Calm refused to marry him. Between love and doing the right thing, she finally chose the latter. Not long after, news that Keo's husband was engaged to Calm reached her ears. Unable to hold it in any longer, Keo immediately went to her husband to confront him. All the bitterness she had bottled up for so long exploded. She didn't give him a chance to explain but poured out all her anger over being betrayed. She thought he would deny it all, but instead, the husband casually asked for her understanding, using the excuse that his mother was difficult to justify what he did. Those words were like a knife stabbing straight into Keo's heart. She was stunned by the coldness of the man she had once risked everything for. The two of them argued back and forth, ending in tiredness and pain. At this moment, Keo bitterly realized that her decision back then to leave her family for love had turned out to lead to such a tragic ending. The engagement news quickly spread throughout high society. The next day, while out at the market to buy vegetables, Keo was recognized by a few high society ladies. They didn't hesitate to mock and tease her simple look, even making fun of the fact that she was about to be demoted from a main wife to a second wife overnight. Those harsh words made Keo dizzy. Having lost sleep and skipped meals for days because of family drama, her body was exhausted. Right in the middle of the crowded market, she couldn't take it anymore. Her vision went dark and she passed out, regardless of everyone watching. The maid helped Keo home, feeling angry and upset for her. When Keo said the name Calm, Aum froze immediately because that was the Lord's niece. The more Keo talked, the more heartbroken she became. For all these years, she had worked her tail off caring for the family, but just because she had no status, she was hated by her husband and mother-in-law. Hearing this, Aum also got teary-eyed. Years ago, she was also abandoned by the Lord because of her low status, so she deeply sympathized with Keo's situation. To get justice for Keo, Aum took all her courage and went to Lord Thong's mansion. She begged the Lord to stop Calm's marriage because that man already had a family. However, the Lord was only Calm's relative, so he really couldn't get too deeply involved in the matter. Aum angrily scolded him, saying that the Lord's family were the type of people who ditch the old whenever they find something new. Hearing that, the Lord also got angry. This was clearly a backhanded insult to him. The Lord kicked Aum out and warned her not to look for Calm to cause trouble. Both having low status and no support, Aum and Keo both knew well that they had no power to stand up against the entire noble class. Helpless, Aum could only quietly leave. But as soon as she opened the door, she caught Play standing outside with her eyes wide open in fear. Before she could react, Sawat was also there. All the bottled-up bitterness immediately exploded, and she poured all her anger onto Play. Seeing that, Do quickly spoke up to defend her, but she was scolded harshly by Aum without any respect. The mood became so tense it was suffocating. Right at that moment, the Lord stepped out, pointed straight at Aum and gave a firm order, not allowing her to keep yelling or insulting his daughter. Those words were like a knife cutting deep into Aum's heart. Her heart was almost shattered. All the resentment built up for so long suddenly surged up. She hated the man in front of her for abandoning her, and she also hated the noble, dignified look of the high society that she thought was full of lies. That day, Prince Noi brought gifts to Keo's house to find her. This time he came well prepared. He had heard the news about the marriage between Keo's husband and Calm. When the prince mentioned this matter, Keo cried in pain. She only blamed herself for choosing the wrong person back then. Actually, since the time she married him, she had never lived happily. But anyway, this was her family business, so Keo hoped the prince wouldn't get involved. On the way back, the prince's car happened to pass by Keo's husband. He recognized it was the prince's car, and as soon as he got home, he questioned Keo about what shady things she had done. Keo told her husband not to insult the prince. She would never do anything against her morals. Din got so mad that he forbade Keo from seeing the prince ever again. When talking about the matter with Calm, he shamelessly said the one he loved was Keo, and he was only forced to marry Calm. Keo cried like a river. She knew that with Calm he must have said the exact same things. Returning to the mansion, Prince Noi still couldn't stop worrying about Keo's situation. Seeing this, Queen Mother spoke up to stop him, thinking that other people's private business wasn't worth his time. No matter how many women Keo's husband marries, It has nothing to do with the royal family. She bluntly asked if the prince still had feelings for Keo. To that question, the prince calmly replied that he wouldn't get mixed up with a married woman. The only thing he wanted was for Keo to live a peaceful and happy life. Meanwhile, Sam and everyone gathered to play badminton. Since she wasn't used to it, Do was quickly outmatched and stood aside to watch. Sam took that chance, happily continuing to play with Pa, purposefully pulling all the attention to herself. Do stood to the side, blankly watching the shuttlecock fly back and forth. Suddenly, Sam swung her racket really hard, purposely hitting it straight at Do's head. Being hit, Do cried out in pain. However, the result wasn't what Sam expected. In just a moment, all eyes were on Do. Eldest master immediately rushed over, kindly asking if she was okay and looking after her, which made Sam even more furious. Not willing to lose, she immediately pretended to hold her arm and cry in pain, trying to pull the attention back to herself, but deep down, a jealousy she couldn't hide was surging up. Just yesterday, Kay was still a messy-haired housewife, abandoned by her husband and only moping and feeling sorry for herself. But now, thanks to the prince stepping in to help, Kay had transformed into the most radiant woman at the party. Those gossipy ladies who used to mock her for being country now rushed over, acting all fake and sweet to pull Kay into a conversation. Seeing that, the other woman Calm felt super annoyed. She didn't expect her lover's wife to be that beautiful. After Kay left, Calm took the initiative to go talk to the prince. She knew well that the prince purposely let Kay shine bright to confirm her status as the main wife, and to warn her not to even think about stealing Kay's man. They both acted fake while greeting each other, but actually they had been annoyed by each other for a long time. Calm went out to the lobby and happened to bump into her uncle's family. She mumbled sarcastically about how the prince didn't just come himself but also showed off by bringing Kay to the party. Hearing Kay's name, Ka felt uneasy. Years ago, she and the prince almost got married. Who would have thought the prince fell in love with Kay at first sight and bluntly cancelled the engagement between the two families? Over 10 years had passed, and Ka still kept the prince's image in her heart, but she just had to bury those feelings deep down. Walking into the main hall, Ka recognized the prince right at first sight. Feeling her gaze, the prince also looked up at her. Thong, Ka's husband, was clearly jealous at this point, sourly mocking his wife to tone it down. Seeing that, the prince stepped in to save Ka from the awkwardness, taking the lead to shake Thong's hand in a friendly way. He also wanted to use this move to quietly confirm to Thong that the feelings between him and Ka were in the past. The prince politely complimented Ka on still being as beautiful as before, then turned to greet Do. That mature and subtle way of handling the situation made Thong shut up, too embarrassed to throw any more shade. The prince even introduced Keo to Ka so they could get to know each other, asking her to keep an eye on and look after Keo for him. Ka was naturally kind, so she wasn't jealous at all. She very happily started a conversation, and Keo also expressed how honored she was to meet Ka. In this clever way, the prince helped the two women become friends while also clearing up the knot in Ka's heart from all these years. Meanwhile, Keo's trashy husband just got home and heard from the servants that the prince had come to pick up his wife for the party. He immediately thought the worst of his wife and rushed straight to the party hall in a rage. Right before he stepped into the main hall, Keo accidentally got her hand cut by a knife. The prince rushed to grab her hand, his face full of pain and worry. That kind of care was something Ka had never received from the prince, making her feel a bit heartbroken for a moment. Right as the prince was carefully bandaging Keo's wound, the husband suddenly stormed in, yelling loudly and demanding that he let go of his wife's hand. Contrary to all that excitement, the prince stayed calm, coldly replying that he shouldn't be showing up here. Those casual words made the husband even angrier, throwing insults and suspecting that something shady was going on between the two of them. But before he could say anything more, he suddenly turned around and froze when he saw Kam standing behind him. At that moment, Keo was also shocked to realize the truth: the woman who had cut into her marriage was her. Anger immediately surged up, Keo lost control, and was about to rush over to confront her to get some answers. Seeing that, Prince Noi quickly held her back, telling her to stay calm. Meanwhile, Din looked awkward and panicked, turning to ask Kam why she showed up there. The air between the four of them became suffocatingly tense as all the secrets seemed to be laid out right in front of them. Kam pushed his hand away, acting all fake as if she were innocent and didn't want to hurt Keo at all. Unexpectedly, Keo coldly picked up a teacup on the table and spat right into it. This move was clearly a direct insult and a way to humiliate Kam. The husband's eyes went wide in shock. He couldn't believe that a normally gentle Keo could do something so aggressive. By this point, Kam was also fuming. She was determined to piss Keo off, so she purposely linked arms and cuddled up to the husband. The fight between the two women was like a loaded gun, ready to go off. Keo rushed in to attack Kam but was quickly stopped by Prince Noi, while the husband also hurried to keep Kam away. Right at the peak of the tension, the host of the party showed up just in time and invited everyone to have lunch, which temporarily stopped a brawl. However, at the dining table, Keo and Kam kept glaring at each other. Keo looked at the mistress with cold eyes, and Kam tilted her face up, refusing to back down. Going to a party and bumping into the third wheel her husband was paying for. After a tense staring contest, Keo angrily slammed her knife and fork on the table and stomped quickly toward Kam. Just as the two women were about to get into a fight, the guests around them rushed over to hold them back. After pulling Keo away, Ka advised Prince Noi to take her home first, fearing that staying would cause even bigger trouble. Prince Noi then left to find Keu. Right as Ka followed behind him, her husband Lord Thong blocked her way. In Thong's eyes, the fact that his wife was meddling like that was all because she still hadn't forgotten her old flame. Ka felt he was being totally unreasonable. Seeing something so disgusting, how could she just turn a blind eye? She was too tired to argue, so she just ignored Lord Thong. That attitude made him even more furious, with a stomach full of anger and nowhere to let it out. A while later, Prince Noi came over to tell Ka that he would take Keu home first and also thanked her for helping Keu today. Jealousy went straight to his brain, and Lord Thong, disregarding his image, rushed over to curse out Prince Noi, calling him shameless. He splashed his glass of wine right on the prince and even went so far as to swing his hand and land a slap right on his face. The scene at that time was a total mess, and Prince Noi couldn't just swallow his anger. Luckily, the guests around them rushed in to stop it. Unexpectedly, Thong pushed his luck even more, pointing his finger to warn Prince Noi to stay away from Ka. As for Din, he acted all high and mighty now, trying hard to show off in front of Kam. He shamelessly declared that he didn't care at all about other people having eyes on his wife, even throwing sarcastic words as if he hoped Prince Noi would win Keu's heart instead of him. Facing that attitude, Prince Noi stayed calm, but his words were very firm. He stated that in love, there's no such thing as winning or losing, and he didn't need to win to get Keu's heart. Just knowing he truly loved her was enough. Hearing that, Keu didn't stay silent anymore. She stood up straight, her eyes steady, clearly stating her point that love isn't something to fight over. Then she turned to look straight at Kam, her voice cold but strong, bluntly declaring that if anyone craved that main wife spot, she was ready to give it up. Those words were like a sharp comeback. It wasn't about giving up, but about letting go, a way to confirm that man wasn't worth holding onto anymore. The hidden meaning in every word hit Kam's pride. It wasn't that she couldn't keep him, but that she didn't even want to. Returning home after the party, Kam was so mad she was speechless. Remembering the scene where Keu spat into the teacup, she was full of hate because in all her years, she had never been insulted like that by anyone. Now the big grudge between her and Keu had gone way beyond just fighting over a man. As for Keu, when her heart had completely turned cold, she decided not to hide anything anymore and laid all her cards on the table. In front of her two kids, she calmly but firmly spoke the truth that their father was about to marry Kam. The air in the room suddenly became heavy. Facing his children's eyes, Din had no way out, so he shamelessly started making excuses. He tried to act calm, promising that even if he married a new wife later, he would still love and take care of his kids like before. However, those words only made the lies even more obvious. While Keu chose to face the truth, that man still tried to use empty promises to cover up his betrayal. Daughter Sam immediately stood up and protested fiercely, saying the family was already falling apart, so what was all this talk about taking care of them? The girl questioned her father about who that other woman actually was. That man was as quiet as a mouse and didn't dare say a word. But Keu didn't hold back and called out Kam's name directly. Sam realized right away that it was actually Thong's niece, Do's cousin. It turned out everyone around them already knew about this crazy scandal, and only she was kept in the dark and fooled all this time. The next day, Mother Mai went all the way to find Kam's mother to ask why they wanted to cancel the old engagement. The other mother sighed and said Kam didn't want to get married, and as a mother, she couldn't do anything about it. Right then Kam strolled in. After thinking really hard all night, she made a bold choice to skip the messy engagement part and jumped straight to the wedding. Hearing that, both mothers were overjoyed and smiled like flowers. The reason Kam made this quick decision was that she already had a wicked plan ready to deal with Keu. In another scene, Play was eating her fill at the palace. She completely forgot her mom's strict order to never set foot there, and she even innocently complained that her home-cooked food tasted awful. Seeing Keu's tragedy, plus all the hate she had stored up against Thong's house, Play's mom totally lost control. Her anger flared up wildly. She grabbed a wooden stick and hit her daughter over and over. Play was in pain, crying her heart out and begging for forgiveness. That sight broke Ka's heart, and she immediately tried to rush in to stop it. However, flatly stopped her, her voice cold and bitter, stating that this was her daughter and outsiders had no right to meddle. In reality, knew full well that Play was Thong's secret bloodline. The reason she was so physically violent with the girl was to let out all the resentment and unfairness she had bottled up inside. Like that, she kept swearing and chasing the girl out to the hall. Play screamed and tried to run away. In her panic, not looking where she was going, Play slammed right into Thong, who had just arrived home. Thong frowned, his sharp, cold eyes full of questions about what was happening. Before could even explain, Play rushed over, hugged his legs tight, and begged for help with tears in her eyes. Seeing that cheating lover standing there, Elm's heart flared up with a fire of hate stronger than ever. She tormented Play, forcing the girl to clearly see her lowly status compared to the young Mistress Do. But contrary to all expectations, daughter Do bravely stood up to protect Play, confirming their friendship. The maid could only smirk, full of mockery and challenge, her eyes looking at Do as if to ask if Thong would even recognize that friendship. At that moment, Thong froze in hesitation. Being naturally arrogant, he looked down on poor, lowly people, and deep down, he only saw Play as a toy, a servant to play with his precious daughter Do. His cowardly silence was the last straw that made completely break down. Her anger reached its peak. She dragged Play away, hitting her harder and harder. Even though Aum had craved so much for Thong to acknowledge Play as a true friend to Do, he chose to stay silent. In the end, Play had to wipe away her tears and follow her mom out of the palace. Watching that scene, which made sense but was so heartless, Ka was once again deeply disappointed in her husband. A few days later, from her own mother's mouth, Kam heard all the palace secrets about the past romance between Prince Noi and Keu. Knowing this, she was determined to stir up a huge storm to get back at Keu and satisfy her grudge. But even before the stepmother officially walked through the door, an attitude war broke out with the stepkids. Sam pulled her brother's arm toward her, her eyes sharp and her sarcastic voice full of sass as she introduced herself to Kam. Kam didn't back down at all, snapping back with an attitude as if to say she had already known the two of them for a long time. Seeing that bad attitude, Sam immediately showed her power, her cold eyes and bossy vibe making the other person unable to fight back, as if to warn her and make it clear she could never give herself the right to be the mother of their family. All the noise quickly reached Keu's ears. This time, Kam showed up at the party without an invite, clearly looking for trouble. However, today was the prince's housewarming party, and because Keu respected him, she had no plan to make a scene there. After Keu happily greeted Ka unexpectedly, that stuck-up Kam suddenly marched over. The grudge between her and Keu was now like they couldn't live under the same sky. Kam shamelessly demanded that the prince officially stand up and introduce her to Keu. Stuck in a hard spot, the prince had to speak up, introducing Kam as Lord Thong's own niece. Right at the moment Thong was about to introduce Keu, daughter Sam suddenly appeared, walking straight up with a loud voice and a firm attitude, highlighting her father's name and confirming Keu's power in the family. Faced with that boldness, Kam was speechless and tongue-tied, unable to say a single word back, while Keu gave a proud smile, full of confidence during the tense argument. Clearly, Keu once again came out on top. The party officially started, and a few nosy ladies gathered in groups to gossip, twisting the story about the relationship between Kam and Keu. Kam stood not far away, listening to every word, realizing that she had paid shills to sneak in, determined to humiliate Keu tonight. When that shill loudly praised Kam like she was putting her up on a pedestal, while at the same time mocking Keu as a lowly housewife who didn't fit the image of a high-class lady, Kam smirked, her bright red lips curling up with pride. While the shill was rambling on, Sam angrily stepped forward with a fierce and determined attitude, pointing out that her mother was the only official wife who legally had children, totally different from people who act like high-class ladies but are rotten and dirty inside. Sam showing up was like a strong wind, cutting through all the schemes and making Kam take a step back, while Keu calmly stayed in control, her family authority perfectly protected. Sam scolded even harder, using very sharp words to call Kam shameless right to her face. Being yelled at by a child in front of a crowd, Kam turned red with anger and was speechless, not knowing how to talk back. Seeing his sister causing a scene, eldest master quickly ran over to pull Sam back, worried that making trouble at the prince's housewarming party would ruin everything. The guests standing around the party acted practical and kiss up to an obvious level. All eyes were on powerful connections rather than being sincere. While the mood was already tense, Sam was full of fire, her anger rising as she shook off her brother's hand, totally not realizing that he was purposely making an excuse to protect her and help her avoid an awkward situation in front of everyone. Watching this scene, Prince Noi had to step forward and pretend to scold Sam. Even the prince's serious tone couldn't hide some of his sympathy. Prince Noi highlighted that you can't just throw insults at people in public, as if he wanted to teach a lesson but also cleverly stepped in to cool down the tension and save face for both Sam and the people around. The air was still suffocating, but the prince showing up created a pause, making all eyes stop for a bit and Sam's anger get somewhat under control. Sam was so frustrated that tears flowed out. The girl hated these fake high-class people to the bone, hating why in the middle of a crowd, there wasn't a single person who would stand up and say a fair word for her mom. But at her young and innocent age, the girl didn't understand the cold ways of the world. Her family's huge scandal in the end was just a few pieces of gossip for people to enjoy after dinner. After Sam's big scene, the guests started whispering, turning to judge Keo for not knowing how to raise her kid, mocking her family's upbringing as being terrible. The next day, Kam sat and gossiped with her own mother about what happened at the party. She complained that with a brat like Sam being so mouthy, if she married into that house, she definitely wouldn't have a single peaceful day. Her mother heard that and immediately took her daughter's side, even curling her lip and mocking Keo and her kids, saying like mother like daughter. Kam picked up the wedding jewelry, tried it on a few times, and then didn't hesitate to complain that the style was outdated, her eyes sparkling with dissatisfaction. She kept insisting on having a brand new set of jewelry that was completely trendy. Her mother, with a polite but firm tone, tried to stop her, explaining that this was a family heirloom passed down from generation to generation, something their ancestors left behind, and she couldn't get married without wearing such a precious piece. But Kam didn't back down at all. Anger surged up, and she threw the jewelry box onto the table, snapping irritably, her eyes full of rage as if she wanted to fight against all traditions and her mother's advice. In Kam's heart, the problem wasn't just the jewelry. The real anger came from having to marry a man who already had a wife, making her carry the label of the one cleaning up someone else's mess. All the gossip and mocking looks from people seemed to pile up on her, making the thing she cared about not jewelry anymore, but the prying eyes and mockery from everyone around her. A few days later, the mood in the family became even more tense when Prince Noi personally came to visit Keu. He walked in with a hesitant attitude, his voice carrying bad news that made her heart skip a beat. Her husband's wedding to Calm was happening tomorrow. This news hit like a hammer, stirring up so much surprise, worry, and anger, putting Keo in a tough spot facing a decision that was almost impossible to undo. Hearing that, Keo froze. For a long time she had forced herself to act like she didn't care, but at the moment that man officially brought the other woman through the door, her defenses shattered. She hated him, but her love for him was also real. No matter how painfully she was betrayed, her heart still bled for him. Every memory of their happy times together flooded back, tormenting her mind so that she couldn't forget no matter what. Keo covered her face and sobbed like a child. Prince Noi looked painfully at the woman he loved, shedding tears, but he didn't know what else to do besides feeling helpless. In the blink of an eye, the wedding day arrived. Under the watch of both families, the sneaky couple happily held hands and finished all the wedding rituals. On their wedding night, the trashy husband didn't think for a second about his devoted wife waiting all alone at home. He was lost in Calm's beautiful looks, and that very night, the two terrible people were passionately wrapped up in each other. At the same time, Keo tossed and turned, unable to close her eyes at all. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit her chest, and dry coughs kept coming out non-stop. She quickly took a handkerchief to cover her mouth. When she opened it to look, Keo was totally shocked. On the pure white cloth was a bright red bloodstain she had just coughed up. The groom's family just brought the high-class new wife through the door, and the very next day, Mother Mai scurried over to find the poor daughter-in-law to kick her out. She told Keo to pack her bags and head back to the countryside right away. The peak of this heartless move was that she even demanded to snatch away her 2 kids. She acted all high and mighty, mocking that someone from a low-class background like Keo wasn't qualified to raise the bloodline of a noble family. Keo fought back with everything she had. She had already sucked it up and let her husband take a second wife, but when it came to her kids, she'd rather die than give them to anyone else. Seeing that, Mother Mai started threatening her. If Keo stubbornly insisted on taking the kids, she would cross their names off the family tree. Once they lost that noble label, they would live in poverty for the rest of their lives and never be able to hold their heads up. Sam accidentally overheard this and called her dad's new villa right away. Unexpectedly, the one who picked up was that woman Calm. So it was tit for tat, and Sam and stepmother Calm had another chance to trash-talk each other over the phone. Without saying much more, Sam grabbed her brother and stormed straight into her dad's fancy villa. Seeing the servants blocking his kids, the man quickly ordered them to let go. Sam threw herself into her dad's arms, crying and telling him that grandma wanted to kick mom out, and even threatened to cross them off the family tree. Hearing that, he knew all too well that his mom was playing tricks again. He comforted them and promised the world, saying he would never let the 3 of them be separated. The next day, Din went to find his mother to confront her, but this old fox was too sneaky to get caught. She knew her son wouldn't stay calm in a face-to-face talk, so she immediately pulled a clever move, acting like she was being totally wronged. She painted a seemingly reasonable picture. She just wanted to bring Keo and the 2 kids to live together, but the daughter kept throwing a fit and insisted on living separately, which made her get angry and say some harsh things. The foolish man was completely fooled by this scheme, believing everything was just a small misunderstanding, and he didn't suspect any plot lying in wait. Once she had sweet-talked her son, the old fox didn't stop. She kept pushing Din to bring Calm to live with the family, covering it up with the reason that family should all be together. But in reality, this was just a clever plan. She wanted to use Calm's presence to pressure Keo, putting her in a tight spot and pushing her to the edge both mentally and regarding her rights in her own home. Every action and word was carefully arranged, like chess pieces on a board, making Keo the victim of a cruel plot. Right after that, Mother Mai scurried back over to Keo's place. She coldly announced that her son was taking back the house, forcing the 3 of them to move into her husband's mansion. But moving back there meant Keo had to share her space with the mistress, Calm. There was no way she could just stomach this insult. Cruelly, she didn't have a single penny to her name, so she had nothing to pay for her 2 kids' food or school. Feeling powerless, Keo had to swallow her tears and agreed to go back. Just as she stepped through the door, Mother Mai hit her with a painful shock right away. She kicked Keo down to a rundown room meant for servants and strictly banned her from ever stepping into her old master bedroom. This attitude made Sam furious, so she stood up to defend her mom, her eyes flashing with anger and her voice making it clear that the master bedroom was her mom's right. So how could it be stolen? Mother Mai, looking powerful and calmly sneaky, pushed her luck and fired back, cruelly implying that only her son's main wife deserved to have that room. The point was clear. Keo's value had dropped. She was now just a second wife, living like a parasite in her own home. She had to bite the bullet, wipe her tears and accept the humiliation because she had no way to fight back. At the same time, Calm and the husband were arguing loudly about moving into the house. Calm acted dissatisfied and complained, refusing to live under the same roof as Keo. The man quickly comforted her, explaining that Keo had been sent down to the servants' quarters, so they wouldn't even run into each other up here. Feeling okay with that, Calm softened her tone and followed her husband back to the mansion with her suitcase. As soon as they arrived at the boat dock, Sam saw Calm's face, and her attitude flipped instantly. The 2 of them glared at each other with burning hate. Not wanting to breathe the same air as the mistress, Sam stomped away without a second thought, leaving behind tension and silent hate. It's a small world because right then Keo walked out and bumped right into her rival. Calm glared at Keo, She was still holding a deep grudge over being spat on the other day. Scared a fight would break out, Sam quickly reached out and pulled her mom back. Seeing the rival, Sam purposely asked loudly what her mom was cooking for lunch, acting snobby as if Calm were just some random guest passing through. Calm was seeing red, but before she could blow up, Mother Mai suddenly showed up to settle things down. But the dark-hearted Mother Mai didn't stop at her dirty tricks from before. This time she pulled a really low move, forcing Kao to bow and pay respect to Calm. The reason she gave was enough to make anyone's skin crawl with disgust. She claimed that Calm was the main wife of the house now, and so Kao, even though she was the legal wife, had to bow to her. Her last bit of dignity, all of Kao's pride and self-respect, were stomped on without mercy, making her feel like she was standing at the edge of a cliff of despair. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, living as a dependent, Kao bit her tongue and swallowed the shame. She put her hands together, getting ready to bow to the mistress, but deep inside, her bitterness and powerlessness surged, making her heart choke up. Right then, Sam, seeing her mom suffer, couldn't help but feel hurt and angry, so she rushed in to stop it. Her eyes were on fire, and her hands were shaking, but she was firm she wouldn't let her mom bow to that evil woman. The tension in the room hit its peak, like a play pulled tight as a string, with every second packed with pressure and resentment. It wasn't until the trashy husband walked in with a confused look on his face to step in and try to make peace that the drama finally calmed down a bit. The air was still heavy, and the bitterness was still smoldering, but at least Kao was saved from the direct humiliation in front of Calm, and the family tension was stopped for now. But Kao's dark days were just beginning. Mother Mai ordered her to be grounded and wouldn't let Kao see her son. For a long time, Kao was like a prisoner, never stepping foot out of the rundown servants' quarters. Her health was already weak, and since she had taken care of a sick person before, Kao now started showing signs of tuberculosis. Seeing her mom getting more and more haggard, Sam couldn't help but feel heartbroken. It felt like her heart was being cut into pieces. The girl vented her anger, her eyes and voice full of rage, speaking words of deep hate for her cruel, heartless grandmother who had hurt her mom to the core. Unfortunately, Mother Mai heard every word. Right away she jumped up, her face turning bright red, and she cursed aggressively, calling Sam an ungrateful brat with the heart of a beast. She even threatened her fiercely, her voice cold and bossy, ordering that if she didn't like it here, she should get the hell out of the house so she wouldn't have to look at her anymore. Sam stood there, her heart full of resentment and shaking, while a feeling of tension and helplessness filled the whole room. The air was thick and everyone's eyes were watching her, making the girl both hateful and scared. But her determination didn't fade at all. And to suck up to the high-class new daughter-in-law, this snobby Mother Mai grabbed a stick and beat the poor daughter-in-law Kao over and over. While hitting her, she nagged with poisonous words, cursing Kao to just hurry up and disappear to save everyone the trouble. Standing nearby, Calm put her hands on her hips, happily watching the show. With a cruel mother-in-law backing her up, Kao's painful days were just the warm-up. Just as Mother Mai was enthusiastically swinging the stick, someone suddenly rushed in to stop her. She was about to start screaming and cursing, but she turned around and was stunned. It was Din. The man quickly grabbed the stick from his mother's hand and lowered his voice, begging her to cool down. Seeing her favorite son speak up, the old woman irritably stopped, ending the cruel treatment for now. That night, the husband crept down to Kao's rundown room, pretending he wanted to have a little heart-to-heart about what happened during the day. Kao coldly told him to get out, but inside she was full of resentment. She hated him for being a coward and not protecting his wife, and she hated how heartless he was for not caring about her for a whole month. The man said some sneaky words, asking what he had to do to make her happy. In the end, they made a deal that every week he would come down to sleep with Kao for 3 nights, and during that time nobody was allowed to bother them. So that night, the new bride Calm had to deal with a lonely night all by herself. She stayed wide awake until midnight, hanging around the door waiting for her husband. Word about this got around fast, spreading into every corner of the mansion. The next morning, Sam happily ran out to talk trash to Calm. The maids joined in too, gossiping away and saying that Kao looked glowing and radiant this morning, so she must have had a good time with the young master all night. Hearing the servants whispering like that, Calm was so mad her face twisted, and her jealousy went straight to her brain. By lunchtime, Din finally strolled over to the table, looking like he had just left Kao's place. Mother Mai didn't miss the chance and started nagging, her voice sounding both bossy and snobby, saying he didn't need to care or worry too much about Kao. According to her, having a roof over her head and 3 full meals a day made Kao luckier than 10,000 people out there, so he shouldn't bother. But the husband, opposite to what she expected, dropped a bombshell that shocked everyone at the table. He said that Kao was his wife anyway, so taking care of her is obvious and there was nothing else to think about. Hearing this, Calm's blood was boiling, and her anger surged. She slammed her chopsticks and bowl onto the table, her eyes on fire and her hands shaking with rage. As Lord Thong's noble niece, she gave herself power and status, but now she was pushed into a bitter reality, having to use someone else's leftovers, living under the same roof where her rights and power were shaken, which deeply hurt her pride. The mood at the table became suffocating, with everyone's eyes watching, both tense and heated, as if even a blink could start a new fight. But Calm wasn't someone to be messed with. She told Din that she was going to throw a huge party soon, and invite all her friends and family to celebrate their marriage. And for the killing blow, she paused for a few seconds and whispered that she had invited the prince too. This was Calm's wicked plan, using the prince to meddle and stir up jealousy to choke the feelings between Kao and her husband. The party day arrived. In the poor room, Sam was brushing her mom's hair and putting on her makeup. While she was sad not knowing what accessory to use, she found a very fancy carved silver hairpin at the bottom of the closet. Nobody knew that this was actually a keepsake the prince gave Kao years ago. Sam innocently tucked it into her mom's hair. Kao always thought she was totally honest and clean with the prince, so she didn't think twice and left the pin there. In the main hall, Calm looked gorgeous in a bright red dress with sharp makeup, her vibe totally overshadowing Kao's haggard look. The guests quickly filled up the place. When it was time to eat, Calm personally went over to welcome the prince. He complimented her on how well organized the party was, but this made the husband annoyed. He stepped up, throwing some shade to warn the prince to stop using sweet words. Calm was already mad at her husband, so she completely ignored him and purposefully invited the prince to taste the food on the table. Because she knew perfectly well that every single dish on that spread was made by Kao herself, the prince elegantly took a bite of food, put it in his mouth and chewed slowly, then gave a meaningful smile. His eyes were shining with nostalgia, and his voice was warm but held a clear message. This was a perfect flavor that he hadn't tasted in a long time, and it seemed like he had never forgotten it in his mind. These words, though soft, made the air around the meal heat up. The ladies standing nearby couldn't help but get fired up, eager and impressed by the prince's elegant and powerful attitude. But for the husband, that sentence was like a clever reminder, pointing out that Kao was someone worth treasuring, while at the same time being a direct provocation, stepping on his already weak pride. He sat there, speechless, his eyes both annoyed and ashamed, realizing that the prince's high-level and subtle move had cleverly put him in a passive spot, making a hidden shame and powerlessness flare up inside him. The dining space, from the flickering candles to the buzzing sounds of people around, became heavy, and every passing second made him clearly feel the difference between himself and Kao, between him and the prince's power. Before leaving the party, the prince quietly went around to the kitchen in the back to find Kao. The two of them just stood from afar, sharing a look that held 10,000 words left unsaid. Kao clearly understood her status at this moment, that she wasn't allowed to get tangled up with him anymore. The prince was just about to step closer when Ka appeared out of nowhere, calling him back. Ka gently reminded the prince that it was time to leave. Both Kao and the prince felt their hearts sink, realizing that this meeting was probably a goodbye forever. A few days later, a shocking truth was accidentally revealed. Thong found out that Play, Elm's ragged daughter, was actually his secret bloodline. The Lord was shocked to realize the ragged, messy kid who had been hanging around him for so long actually carried royal blood. Thong secretly took Play to a fancy 5-star restaurant. Since she had never eaten good food before, she kept her head down and ate away, gobbling it up without caring about her image, totally not noticing Thong's look full of love and pity fixed on her. Knowing his dear daughter had suffered for so many years, he lowered his voice to ask her questions, wanting to hear about her life and fate. When he heard Play innocently talk about her drunk stepdad, who only knew how to get wasted and stay out late, Thong sighed softly, his heart feeling like it was being squeezed by someone. That sight made him unable to stand watching his own flesh and blood continue to suffer another day of misery. The man, with a voice that was both careful and soft, asked Play if she wanted to move into the palace to live with him. Hearing the words the palace, the girl froze, her young mind immediately started thinking, and her bright eyes looked up to ask, fearing that he planned to take her in as a servant. Before hearing an explanation from Thong, Play shook her head and refused firmly. She explained that she still had to help her mom sell vegetables and take care of her sister at home. Every innocent but filial word from a poor child made Thong's cold heart shake. He looked at the girl, his eyes unconsciously turning red, feeling both love and pity. That small, strong, and pure image touched the deepest parts of his feelings, making him realize that sometimes, the silent sacrifice of a child can move even souls that seem to have turned cold. After eating her fill, Play clumsily carried the expensive cake Thong bought for her, skipping and hopping her way back to help her mom work. Who would have thought that as soon as she arrived, Alm started cursing her out, scolding the kid for wandering around and being lazy. Play was scared and quickly ran to the vendor spot, working hard to help her mom lift the heavy bamboo basket. Back to Play's story. Just as she picked up the bamboo basket, Alm's eyes caught the expensive cake lying there. She immediately jumped up, being certain that this brat had secretly sneaked to the palace to meet the young Mistress Do. Play was pale with fear, quickly explaining that she hadn't set foot in the palace at all, she just accidentally ran into Thong on the street. But since Alm was in a rage, she didn't believe a word, immediately grabbing the wooden stick and hitting the girl over and over. Play cried and wailed, taking the beating while tearfully telling the whole story from start to finish, but that small explanation couldn't cool down Alm's sky-high anger. With a heart full of resentment toward the cheating man, Alm's eyes flared with rage. Every stern and powerful warning was given, forbidding Play from seeing Thong again. If she dared to break the rule, she wouldn't hesitate to make the girl pay a heavy price. But still not satisfied with her anger, Alm went straight to the palace to settle the score with Thong. She pointed right at his face, her voice questioning him coldly and full of hate, asking why he dared to hang around and follow Play. At this point, Thong didn't keep a calm face anymore. He took off his mask and frankly declared that Play is his biological daughter. He said he would bring the girl to the palace because he couldn't stand seeing his daughter living like a little mouse, getting beaten so much she had to kneel and beg for mercy. Aum gave a cold smirk, her voice bitter and challenging, asking with what status the Lord planned to welcome Play back. Thong replied calmly that of course it would be as a noble young lady, with a status equal to Do. As for Ka, she was naturally kind and understanding, so she would definitely sympathize and accept the truth. But this man completely underestimated the hate of a woman who was dumped. Aum's anger immediately turned into wanting revenge on Thong. Her eyes were cold and her words showed no mercy, saying that if he made Play's status public, she would expose every single bit of their past to Ka, to get revenge and humiliate Thong to the end. The air became as tense as a string. Every word and look was full of schemes and hate. Thong heard that and his blood pressure almost spiked. He knew clearly that if this mess went that far, no matter how forgiving Ka was, she would absolutely never swallow that bitter pill. That was exactly Aum's goal. She wanted him to be torn apart, to be tormented so much that he wouldn't have a single peaceful moment. She wanted him to feel the ultimate pain and helplessness. It was just like that year when she could only stand humbly in a dark corner, staring helplessly as Thong took Ka's hand and walked into the wedding hall while she couldn't do anything. Back to the mess at Kyo's house. The appearance and the lingering feelings Prince Noi had for Kyo poked right at the possessiveness and territory-marking nature of the trashy husband. For a long time after the party, he stuck to Kyo's rundown room, ignoring the new bride Calm, who stayed up every night in a lonely bed. Calm was frustrated to the point of going crazy, packing her bags and demanding to go back to her parents' house. She screamed that she was already fed up with the situation where she was officially the main wife, but had to compete for a man with a second wife every day. Seeing the house in total chaos, the old fox mother didn't miss the chance. In the middle of the night, she secretly whispered into her son's ear, her tone both sweet-talking and trash-talking about the relationship between Kyo and Prince Noi, aiming to force her son to get up and bring Calm back. The next day, he dragged himself to his new wife's house to swallow his pride and bring her back, his face looking both embarrassed and forced. Seeing her son-in-law show up in person, Calm's mom immediately scolded her daughter, saying her husband had come all this way, so why was she still playing hard to get? But Calm just gave a cold smirk, her eyes showing a hint of a scheme. She knew his cheating two-timing ways all too well, so she was determined to be tough until the end. Calm purposely stayed upstairs, making Din sit downstairs and wait for several hours, just so he could feel the same exhausted waiting she felt in the wedding room. The husband sat there, unconsciously biting his nails, with impatience showing in every move. His tiny bit of patience quickly ran out, making him stand up in a huff, about to just head home and be done with it. Right at that moment, Calm finally strolled down from upstairs, looking slow as if she didn't care at all about the wait downstairs. But as soon as they were face to face, before they could even say 3 sentences, the air became as tense as a string. They started arguing back and forth, every word filled with anger and helplessness, and neither side would back down. Din tried to say a few sweet words just for show, but clearly his patience was gone, and his attitude became careless and half-hearted. Seeing that they weren't getting anywhere, he didn't even bother to play the caring husband anymore. In the end, he coldly threw out a final sentence, saying he'd come back when Calm stopped being mad, and then he immediately turned around and walked out without a second thought, leaving behind a suffocating mood that hadn't even cooled down. As his figure disappeared behind the door, Calm flopped down on the sofa and burst into tears. She was so frustrated she felt choked up. Being a high-class girl from a noble family, she never expected to be humiliated like this. But what hurt her the most was Din's cold, obvious I don't care attitude, the person who was supposed to protect her. Seeing her daughter in pain, Calm's mom didn't let her sink into despair. She pushed her, her voice serious but full of schemes, saying she must pack her suitcase and go back to her husband's house right away. She highlighted that giving up now would mean falling into Kyo's trap. The harder it gets, the more she must be determined, stepping over her rival to keep living, showing off her power and honor. So just 2 days later, Calm showed her face again to be the boss lady. But this time she didn't come back empty-handed. She dragged her niece Do along to live with her so she'd have an ally. It's a small world, and Sam, who was already annoyed by Calm, now hated Do with a passion. And in the days that followed, this house was definitely going to become a battlefield. One day, Sam flew into a rage. She was determined to boil a whole pot of water at 500 degrees, with her lips curling into a very wicked smile. Sam crept over to Do and ordered the servants to snatch the pet turtle that Do was taking great care of. Cruelly, she planned to throw the turtle into the boiling pot to cook it. Do was naturally shy and weak, so how could she win against Sam? The little girl tearfully ran after Sam all the way to the kitchen. Seeing the steaming, bubbling pot of water, Do was frozen in fear, standing rooted to the spot. Sam laughed like a demon, loudly declaring that she would let the whole family enjoy fresh turtle stew. Do tearfully begged Sam to spare her pet, but her cowardice made her not dare to talk back at all. Sam heartlessly held the turtle over the mouth of the pot and slowly let go. Right at that decisive moment, Do squeezed her eyes shut and used all her strength to rush forward and push Sam over. The loud screaming caught Play's attention nearby. Seeing Do tumble, Play quickly rushed over to help the girl up, but Sam wouldn't let it go. She insisted on boiling the turtle no matter what. Annoyed by Sam's bullying of the weak, Play took the chance to snatch the turtle back and gave it to Do. Being outsmarted, Sam was furious and ordered the servants to grab both of them, swearing she would teach them a lesson today. But she didn't expect Play to be such a tough cookie. Play threw powerful kicks, knocking the servants away and making them cry and beg. Seeing the henchmen get knocked out, Sam stomped over to Play and suddenly swung her hand, giving her a painful slap. In the eyes of this fake lady, Play would always be just a rude country brat who wasn't born to be on the same level as Sam. Taking the full force of that painful blow, Play really lost it. She roared, lunged at Sam, pinned her face down on the floor and started beating her. Play grabbed Sam's hair, pinned her head to the ground, and tightened both hands around Sam's neck. With someone as stubborn as Sam, maybe tough measures were needed to make her behave. Sam's loud scream brought Saw, her older brother, running over. But when he knew the whole story, Saw just stood there with his arms crossed, having no intention of defending his rebellious sister. Sam struggled and cried out about how unfair it was, insisting she did it all just to let out her anger for her mom. Right then, Calm walked down, her heels clicking on the floor, each step heavy and angry, as if carrying a boiling rage. She pointed right at Sam's face, her voice cold and powerful, saying if she had a grudge, aim it right at her, but absolutely don't touch a single hair on Doe's head. Upstairs, the old fox mother Mai leaned casually against the railing, watching like a high official, seeing the play that Sam had sparked herself. She watched calmly, her eyes flashing with fun and schemes, as if everything happening was just a piece of entertainment for her to observe from above. Seeing Calm appear, Sam didn't hold back at all. The girl wailed and cursed the mistress without any respect, every single word meant to rip apart the other person's calm. But Calm didn't flinch. She warned her, eyes cold, her voice authoritative, saying if she dared to play tricks on Doe again, she wouldn't show any mercy. Right after that, Calm cleverly passed the ball of responsibility to her husband. He took a deep breath, trying to stay cool, because clearly Sam had crossed the line this time. He got serious, his voice authoritative, demanding his daughter apologize. But Sam, with her stubborn and hard-headed nature, bit back, her voice like steel, saying she would never apologize. The air in the room immediately became tense like a wire, every look and gesture packed with hate, anger, and determination. The confrontation between the stubborn girl, the powerful Calm, and the stressed husband created a family drama that was both intense and fiery. Furious because his daughter was talking back, he grabbed a stick to give Sam a real beating. Honestly, he just meant to scare her. But Sam kept throwing insults as sharp as daggers, making Din lose control. The second he swung the stick, Kyo rushed in from nowhere and hugged her kid. In Kyo's eyes at that moment, she only saw her precious daughter almost getting hit. She glared at her husband in resentment, certain that he was heartlessly hitting his own daughter because he listened to the foxy Calm's sweet talk. Dragging her kid back to the room, Sam started twisting the truth. The girl had a slick mouth, crying and tattling to her mom, describing a story totally different from reality. According to her, she was bullied by Calm's people, and her trashy dad sided with outsiders to hit his own daughter, making the situation dangerously worse than anyone could imagine. While crying, Sam even pushed her mom, her voice choking but full of schemes, telling her to run away with Prince Noi, who was always waiting for Kyo to choose him. Every word was a mix of fear, resentment, and calculation, making her mom feel both pity and confusion. The room suddenly became tense and messy, as a stubborn child cried while using tricks to manipulate the situation her way. But her mouth got her in trouble, because Sam didn't know all this bad advice had gone straight into her dad's ears as he stood right outside the door. By the time Kyo realized in shock that her husband was standing there, it was already too late. Even though Din didn't make a scene at that time, that night he disappeared, not even bothering to step foot into Kyo's rundown room as he had promised. The tiny bit of feelings the couple had just fixed was shattered once again, just because of their daughter's big mouth. As for why Play showed her face at this house, it turned out that Aum, fearing Kyo was all alone and being bullied, purposely sent Play here to be a secret bodyguard for support. Before she left, she warned her over and over, strictly forbidding Play from hanging around or hanging out with Doe. But Play treated her mom's words like they went in one ear and out the other, which gave Sam a golden opportunity to find an excuse to kick her out. Naturally wanting to stir up even more trouble, the next day Sam secretly ran to find Prince Noi. She played a trick by spicing up the story, crying and saying her mom was being pushed to the edge by Grandma and that fox Calm, and if this kept going, Kay would probably lose her life soon. Those innocent but overly exaggerated words made Prince Noi feel extremely heartbroken. He quickly asked Sam to give Kyo a handwritten letter, along with a deep message. If she couldn't force herself to stay anymore, he would come to pick her up at any time. The fact that Kyo was loyal to her husband could have been fine, but Sam's bragging and competitive nature ruined everything. She acted all high and mighty, bragging to Calm about how she secretly met Prince Noi. Falling into the mouth of a sneaky homewrecker like Calm, a story that was just a child's pure words was immediately twisted and added onto into a dirty mess that spread loudly all over the house, making everyone even more confused. When night came, Sam kept repeating the same tune that her mom should run away with Prince Noi. In reality, the deep reason behind this eagerness was the girl's extreme craving to be a high-class young lady. Every time she was annoyed and bullied Doe, it was all just because she was jealous of the girl's high status, wanting to prove that she was the one who deserved respect. Kyo got serious and yelled at her daughter, firmly telling her not to mention Prince Noi ever again, as she would absolutely never do anything to wrong her husband. But Sam was stubborn, praising Prince Noi nonstop and putting him up on a pedestal in her imagination. She clicked her tongue, her voice full of threats and ambition, If Mom agreed to marry Prince Noi, we wouldn't have to suffer humiliation, living as dependents and being stepped on like we are now. Not only that, the little brat even loudly declared that if she had a choice, she wouldn't hesitate for a second to take Prince Noi as her father. This statement was both naive and ambitious, making anyone who saw it shocked, both amused and scared of the trouble Sam could cause in this complicated family. Instant karma. All those disrespectful, greedy words once again hit Din's ears. He turned pale with pain hearing his own child say such heartless things. Seeing her husband's face darken, Keo panicked and made her daughter kneel down to apologize right away. Sam grumpily flopped down on her knees in front of her dad, but her mouth was still stubborn and refused to admit she was wrong. Sam screamed, blaming him for bringing that foxcom home, which is why her mom had to live miserably in this house. After all, Sam's resentment wasn't wrong, but she was wrong to take her anger out on an innocent kid like Do, and wrong to use her family's misfortune to hurt and use the people around her. Knowing she couldn't reason with Sam right now, Keo got serious and kicked her daughter out. When it was just the two of them, she softened her voice and humbled herself to apologize to her husband for not raising their daughter well, letting her say such rude things among adults. But the husband was in a rage, his eyes flickering with sarcasm and bitterness, throwing out an attack, saying she probably saw the prince was rich and powerful while Din treated her badly, so deep down Keo was also itching to run away with him. Hearing those harsh insults, Keo couldn't hold back her anger. Her eyes sparkled with both resentment and determination, and her voice became full of power. She bluntly declared that once she stepped into this house, she would absolutely never shamelessly go and lean on anyone else. Seeing his wife's choked-up look, the husband suddenly snapped out of it, realizing he had just misspoken. Regret quickly rose inside him, making him hurry to humble himself and desperately beg Keo for forgiveness. He begged her never to leave him, his voice full of pleading and fear of losing the woman in front of him. That night, after the struggles and torment, the couple finally made up. The knots in their hearts were slowly untied, like a broken mirror being put back together. Both breathed a sigh of relief, quietly healing the cracks that had once hurt them. The next morning, Play and Do were happily playing in the garden when the thorn in their side, Sam, suddenly showed up, ready to cause trouble. Before she could even open her mouth, Sam was yelled at by Play, who cursed her out so fast she couldn't even react. The girl's eyes were on fire, her anger stuck in her throat, ready to explode at any moment. Being naturally kind, Do spoke up timidly, suggesting they move to a different spot to play, just hoping to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, as soon as she heard that, Play immediately took advantage of the situation. She didn't miss the chance, throwing a dig at Sam in a bitter tone, saying this place was truly suffocating and smelly to an annoying level, so they might as well move somewhere else for fresher air. Those words were so blunt and powerful that Sam was stunned for a moment, unable to talk back. Meanwhile, Play looked totally satisfied, as if she had regained her confidence in the upper hand, standing firm in the middle of the garden that was getting tense. Sam couldn't win the argument with Play, and right then, arrived with a basket to visit Keo, casually throwing some insults at the people who were bullying Keo and Sam. Taking the chance, Sam started tattling in a sneaky way. She made up a story saying Play followed Do like a shadow all day, and even teamed up with Calm to bully her and her mom. Alm's rage went straight to her head, making her rush out to the garden to find Play in a fury. As soon as she saw her child, her anger boiled over. She slapped her daughter's face, hissing through her teeth in a rage. Play covered her face, crying and begging, shaking so much she almost fell over. Luckily, Keo showed up just in time, stepping in front of Alm to stop her from doing anything else. But Alm's anger still hadn't cooled down. Just as she was about to raise her hand to hit her again, the old fox mother Mayan Calm appeared like a whirlwind, rushing onto the scene. Keo's mother-in-law pointed straight at Alm's face, her voice sharp and cold as she questioned the chaos, while Din also hurried out, looking both confused and worried. Scared of making things worse, Keo tried her best to pull Alm back and humbled herself, bowing to apologize to everyone. Things should have calmed down, but the foul-mouthed mother-in-law wouldn't let it go, purposely annoying Alm. Alm's impulsive and hot-tempered nature immediately flared up. She jerked Play back and screamed fiercely, protecting her authority and showing her rage. The air in the garden became as tense as a wire, with crying, hateful glares and aggressive gestures mixing together, making everyone's heart skip a beat. From Alm's rage and Keo's determination to the mother-in-law's schemes and power, it created a scene of family chaos. During the out-of-control argument, because she was so jealous of Do's status, Alm swung her hand and landed a heavy slap right on the girl's face. The hard swing made Do dizzy and her nose started bleeding, but the girl was still gentle, crying and saying she was fine. Seeing her cousin being treated so unfairly, Calm was furious. A lowly servant dared to be rude to their high-class young lady. She loudly demanded the mother-in-law step in and settle things once and for all. As for the old woman, she took this chance to dump all the blame on Keo, using the excuse that since Keo brought Alm here, Keo had to take the fall. The two sides argued back and forth intensely, and no one would back down. Sam wouldn't stay quiet. She screamed stubbornly, annoying her grandma. The girl's rude comment was like a fuse being lit, making Mother Mai explode in rage. She cursed Keo as an ungrateful person, her eyes and voice full of authority, then yelled out, ordering Keo and Sam to pack their bags and leave the house immediately. By this point, Keo's patience had completely run out. She held her head high, her eyes steady, and walked out decisively, showing that she didn't need her mother-in-law to kick her out. She would leave on her own right away. The husband saw his wife trying to leave and really panicked, rushing over to hug Keo tight, trying to beg her to stay. Their love from over 10 years of marriage made him unable to stand watching his partner walk away, his eyes full of worry and fear of loss. But right in the heat of the moment, when all emotions were running high, a servant rushed in panting with urgent news, forcing Din to put everything aside. The servant reported that there was an emergency from Mother Mai, demanding he go to the main house immediately to handle it. The air was as tense as a wire right now. Keo was about to walk out. The husband was both worried and confused. Sam was still glaring bitterly, and Mother Mai was satisfied with the power in her hands. It all created a scene of total family chaos. Having no choice, Din had to let go of Keo and run to the main house. To his surprise, the sight that hit his eyes was Kam holding her suitcase, demanding to pack up and leave the house. Actually, this whole mess today was part of a wicked script directed by Kam herself. Bringing little Do along to live with them was a clever move. She knew perfectly well that Sam's bossy attitude would eventually target Do for bullying. Even if hadn't laid a finger on Do today, sooner or later Do's kindness and weakness would make the girl a victim of Sam, and if Sam caused trouble, the blame would naturally fall on Keo for not knowing how to raise her kid. As for Kam, she just sat back and reaped the rewards. Kam acted extremely wronged, with tears in her eyes, saying she had to go back to the palace to take the punishment from Thong for not protecting Do. She even added a killing blow, saying that once she walked out of this house, don't even think about her coming back. This was clearly a move to corner him, forcing the man to make a choice. Kam's plan was perfect, and she naturally turned into the most pitiful victim in the whole story. Scared of losing his new wife, the husband hurried his butt down to the dock to hold Keo back. But this time Keo was firm as a rock, determined to leave for good. Actually, lingering at the dock meant Keo was still leaving a back door open for this marriage. But ironically, Kam suddenly showed up right then, forcing the husband to finally choose who to keep and who to dump. The greedy man stood at a crossroads. If he left Kam, he would offend Thong's whole family who held all the power. But if he left Keo, he couldn't bear it because deep down he still loved her dearly. But fate had other plans. In the middle of that crisis, Prince Noi's yacht slowly cut through the waves and docked. His sudden visit was no different from a death sentence hitting Keo. Just think about it. The husband had just brought a beauty home as a second wife, and the very next day the first wife packed her things for a divorce. While the husband was doing everything to hold her back, suddenly the wife's old flame brought a whole boat to the door to pick her up. Appearances were against her, and every explanation right now sounded like a lie. The husband was livid, convinced that Keo and Prince Noi had been cheating on him for a long time. His male pride flared up, and he pointed straight at Keo's face, kicking her out right away. Then he turned around and grabbed Kam's hand tight, promising the moon and the stars to be faithful to her forever. Keo cried and tried to explain that she and the prince were completely clean, but the husband was stubbornly blind and deaf now, not listening to a single word. Prince Noi stood there confused, not knowing what was going on. He had simply come to visit Keo. Everything had reached the end of the road, and Keo cried until she was exhausted, finally having to sadly step onto the boat to leave with Prince Noi. That night, Keo was so heartbroken it felt like her heart was being torn apart. The prince kindly brought her food to comfort her, but she pushed it away, only sinking into her choking tears. In the blink of an eye, a month passed, and Keo and Sam slowly got used to their new life in the prince's palace. Sam didn't stop pushing her mom, always finding ways to remind and urge Keo to quickly say yes to the prince, but Keo still firmly said no. She didn't want a bad reputation, and she had no plans to remarry, even though the prince's care always made her feel both touched and guilty. Seeing her mom hesitate, Sam wasn't afraid to tell the harsh truth about the rumors outside and the mean gossip people were whispering to each other. On the outside, Keo acted like she brushed it off and didn't care, but when night fell, she still tossed and turned, with her hand on her forehead, thinking endlessly. The reason wasn't that she had anything against the prince, but because the tuberculosis inside her was getting worse every day. A kind person like Keo absolutely didn't want to be a burden to her savior, and she especially didn't want to put herself first and make things awkward for Sam. While she was tossing and turning, a knock on the door startled her. Keo quickly hid her handkerchief with fresh blood under the pillow before going to open the door. The prince's footsteps late at night, his look serious but determined, showed a clear goal. He came to propose to Keo. Only the official status of a wife would be strong enough to shut up the world's gossip and make the prince's protection for her and her daughter official so that no one could interfere. The air in the room was quiet but full of unspoken feelings: love, worry, pride, and Keo's caution as she faced a decision that would change her whole life. In the dim light of late night, with her thoughts racing, she realized this would be the biggest turning point, both a chance to be protected and a challenge for herself and her family's honor. Keo was very grateful for the prince's true feelings, but she shed tears and said no. Right then a dry cough hit her, and she coughed uncontrollably. The prince panicked, and only then did he realize in shock that Keo was seriously ill. He also understood the real reason why she always rejected him, but the prince's love was greater than that. He lovingly held her hand and made a solemn vow to take care of and protect her for the rest of his life. At this point, Keo had nothing else to repay such deep kindness, so she decided to give herself to him, willing to use the little time she had left in her life to be his companion. A few days later, a breakup letter and a bright red wedding invitation were sent to the ex-husband. With that, the cruel bond between the two of them officially ended. On the big wedding day, Keo and the prince released floating lanterns together by the river. But the bride's face had a sad look to it. For the prince, she only felt endless gratitude, while the one who really lived in her heart was still that trashy husband. 3 years passed by quietly. Little Doe, who used to be such a crybaby, had grown into a young lady now. She danced a traditional dance beautifully on stage, looking as elegant and pure as a white swan. Pooh was still like a silent knight, always watching over and protecting Doe. As for Sam, she had really moved up in the world. Having become the prince's adopted daughter, her status now was even higher and more powerful than Doe's. Watching Sam perform the Thai classical dance, the prince felt nostalgic, remembering the first time he ran into Keo. Back then, she was also wearing a bright traditional outfit, and her beauty captivated him so much he couldn't look away. As for Play, life was much harder for her. During the day, she helped her mom sell fish at the market, and at night, she walked around selling cigarettes at a bar. 3 years had gone by, and her playful short hair was now long and flowing. The bar environment was messy, and many times she was touched by handsy guys, but luckily her work friends helped her out, so Play always made it through safely. Then the big day came. Doe's coming-of-age ceremony. She wore a pure white chiffon dress, looking like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. Play's eyes nearly popped out, and she couldn't stop praising her. The girl held out a bracelet she made herself from cheap plastic beads to give to Doe. Doe didn't look down on it at all. Instead, she treasured it like a prize, because it was proof of their beautiful friendship. Doe begged Play to stay for the birthday party, but Play looked at the old country-style clothes she was wearing and felt self-conscious, saying no because she didn't want to embarrass her friend. But to the rich girl Doe, that was no big deal. She generously pulled out one of her own fancy gowns and gave it to Play. For the first time in her life, getting to wear expensive silk and fabric, Play was so happy she was stuttering and couldn't find her words. Doe pulled Play's hand into the party hall, and immediately, the two girls caught the sharp eyes of the nanny, who cared way too much about family status. She frowned in annoyance, her eyes not hiding her disgust. All around, the gossipy servants were curious, whispering about the two girls' looks, comparing them, and everyone was shocked to see the strange similarity between Play and Doe. They had no idea that these two children were actually half-sisters. As the two girls walked down the stairs arm in arm, Ka stood below and kept praising them, her eyes bright and full of admiration. Thong stood beside her with a kind smile, his heart full of satisfaction. He saw Play, the daughter who never had the chance to call him dad, finally getting to wear a dress that matched her worth, and his eyes showed the clear happiness and pride of a father. The mood in the hall was full of surprise and interest, but it also held a bit of subtle tension. When a friend looked closely and was curious about the two girls' ages, Thong couldn't hide the truth. He knew exactly that Play was 2 years older than Doe. This info made Ka freeze for a few seconds, and her face changed. She was shocked, wondering why the man she always trusted knew every little detail about a servant girl like Play. From her age to details from her past, a truth that left her stunned and upset inside. The party atmosphere suddenly became complicated. Joy mixed with surprise, a father's satisfaction, and caused shock and suspicion. Every look and gesture brought up bottled-up feelings, making what seemed like a simple event turn into a dramatic and unexpected moment for the noble family. Meanwhile, because she was wearing a dress worth a fortune, Play looked radiant, and a bunch of rich guys immediately mistook her for some high-class socialite. Seeing that, Doe decided to play along and made up a fake identity for Play, giving her a new name and introducing her as her rich best friend. Those rich guys smelled the money and thought they had hit the jackpot with a prestigious lady, so they crowded all around her, fighting to invite Play to dinner and treating her like royalty. A girl who sells fish at the market, wearing a gown with a sky-high price tag, sneaking into a party for the super-rich and boldly playing the part of a high-society girl. The real drama is just starting to go down now. Life really has a way of giving you exactly what you're trying to avoid. The next day, while she was quietly selling cigarettes at a bar, Play freaked out when she bumped right into the same group of rich guys she had just met at the party the night before. Afraid of her fake socialite label being exposed, Play nervously turned her face away. But unfortunately, that rich young master waved his hand and called the cigarette girl over. Play panicked, quickly let her long hair down to cover half her face, tremblingly handed the pack to the man, and prepared to bolt. Unexpectedly, things didn't go as planned, and while she was running blindly, she slammed into another customer in the bar. This guy was a tough gangster, and getting hit made him fly into a rage and refused to let it go. To defend herself, Play had to grab her wooden cigarette tray and whack him back. This loud brawl stripped away her last bit of disguise. Play turned around to run and slammed right into the chest of that rich young master from earlier. The moment they faced each other, the young master recognized the elegant lady from the gala night right away. The clout chasers with him also stared in shock, then immediately curled their lips and poured out bitter insults. They looked down on her and cursed that Play turned out to be just a poor girl. With her identity exposed in public, Play was so humiliated she wanted the ground to swallow her up. While she didn't know where to hide her face, that tough gangster from before sneaked around behind her, planning to ambush her. Luckily, the young master stepped in heroically just in time, blocking the blow and saving Play, temporarily settling the fight. But the trouble didn't stop there. The next day, Sam, who was stubborn and loved to show off, got together for afternoon tea with some rich kids. While they were gossiping and hanging out, she happened to hear the whole story about Play being a fake lady. Having caught her, Sam was so happy she couldn't hide it and immediately planned to humiliate Play. She ordered some servants to call Play over to serve them, making her the center of the jokes in front of her snobby friends. As soon as Play showed up, the rich girls started mocking, teasing, and looking down on her. They laughed, pushed her away, and poured all their contempt onto the poor girl standing there in shock. Sam sat with her legs crossed, happily enjoying the scene, and even added more insults, bragging to her friends that Play was just a fish seller at the market and didn't fit in with the noble status. However, Play wasn't someone who was easily stepped on. She tilted her head up with cold eyes and fought back against those insults. Not only did she talk back to the fake girls, but she also warned Sam, clearly stating that her purpose was to serve her mother, Kay, not to be a tool for showing off or a servant for anyone else. Play's strength and bluntness left Sam stunned, surprised by the tough reaction from the maid girl. Right when the noise hit its peak, Kay showed up. Seeing her mom, Sam tried to play the victim again, making up a story that Play was rude and dared to argue back and forth with her friends. But Kay wasn't easily fooled. She had stood outside and heard everything, her eyes shining with strictness and determination. Without hesitating, she spoke up to protect Play and strictly corrected Sam, teaching her daughter to respect others and not act so bossy whenever she felt like it. The tense mood in the tea hall immediately calmed down. Play was protected, her dignity was confirmed, while Sam realized her troublemaking was strictly controlled by an adult. Even though she was young, Kay showed the authority and wisdom of a mother, both protecting her children and keeping order in the family. The news about Play being exposed quickly reached Doe's ears. The gentle girl blamed herself deeply, thinking she was the cause of everything. If she hadn't begged Play to go to the party that day and hadn't put that gown on her friend, Play wouldn't have been turned into a laughingstock for everyone. This news reached Thong's ears, and he felt even more pain than Doe. His own flesh and blood daughter was being stepped on by people, yet as a father, he could only stand there staring helplessly, not daring to officially step up and back her up to protect her. That afternoon, Thong walked aimlessly on the beach, his heart feeling really heavy. Thinking about the years Play had to live in poverty, his heart twisted with regret and pain. Every time his daughter was in danger, he felt like a coward and backed away, helpless against reality. After struggling with his feelings for a while, Thong bit his tongue and decided to do something that could change everything. Expose the truth. When Ka came over, Thong bowed his head sincerely and confessed that Play was his real daughter, so all the secrets could finally come to light. Ka was totally shocked after hearing that, her eyes wide open as she stared at her husband with disbelief. Before she could even pull herself together, Doe jumped in from outside, asking her dad in a panic why he said that. Since he had already started, there was no turning back, so Thong let go of all the hiding and told the whole truth. Facing the intense stares of everyone around, he admitted that years ago he had a messy relationship with Aum. Back then, everything was just temporary feelings, and it wasn't until much later that he found out Play was his own child. Thong told them he had once gone to Aum intending to take back his child, but his weak and cowardly nature meant he didn't have enough courage to follow through. The fear of losing his honor and facing gossip made him hesitate over and over, until he lost the chance to fix his mistake. Only today, when he saw his own flesh and blood daughter being humiliated in public with his own eyes, did the struggle inside him finally break out. He understood that he couldn't keep running away or hiding like a coward anymore. In his agony, Thong bowed his head and asked for forgiveness. The air became so heavy it was suffocating. Ka stood still for a long time, then gave a soft sigh, her eyes full of bitterness. Even though she still liked Play in her heart, facing such shocking news, she couldn't accept it easily. In the end, she choked up and said that even though she really liked Play, forcing her to immediately open her arms and accept something so serious was completely impossible. At this moment, Doe spoke up to defend Play again. Opposite to her mom's reaction, the girl was clearly overjoyed to find out her best friend turned out to be her own biological sister. Doe innocently thought that once she had noble blood, Play would never be looked down on by people again, and wouldn't have to go to the market to sell fish for spare change to survive day by day. Hearing her daughter say that, Ka gave a sigh and reluctantly nodded to accept Play's new status. At the same time, Sam still didn't know how deep the trouble was. She kept sticking her chin up and insulting Play, calling her a poor country girl who only deserved to clean sewers and sell fish for her whole life. Right at the peak, a servant with a panicked face came running over. Sam thought something was up and was about to act high and mighty and ask, but the next scene made Play freeze like a stone, her heart pounding non-stop. The maid who had stayed with and cared for her all those years suddenly walked straight over and fell to her knees at Play's feet with a serious face and a look of deep respect, making the whole place go dead quiet. From that moment, Play suddenly realized the truth. It turned out she wasn't just a normal servant girl, but the high-class daughter of a rich and powerful family whose status and name were enough to shake the world. But when Thong ran over looking panicked and shaking, calling out "daughter," with a heart full of torment, Play still didn't dare believe her ears. Memories of the drunk man who was her stepdad made her doubt if what he said was true or just another trick. Thong, with his eyes clearly showing pain and regret, explained honestly that before her mom married that man, she was already pregnant with Play, and the baby in her womb was his. This truth was like an electric shock to Play's mind, blowing away all her doubts, but at the same time it made her heart sink, heavy with emotions, happiness mixed with shock, and also pain for the years she spent living in poverty and being abandoned. In that moment, all the memories of the past and all the pain she had endured for so long suddenly piled up. Play stood between two worlds, one she thought was real, and the new world just laid out in front of her where she was a prestigious heir, a real lady. That contrast made her both stunned and lightheaded, feeling both scared and nervous, not knowing what to believe first. Those words were like a time bomb going off right in Sam's ears, as she was secretly hiding by the door to listen. Her face went stiff for a second, her eyes full of shock and confusion. The girl she had looked down on for so long, constantly stepping on and mocking, someone she assumed was poor and lowly, now suddenly had a completely opposite status. A royal lady, a high-class princess, so noble that people didn't even dare to look her straight in the eye. Meanwhile, Play stood still in the whirlwind of the truth that had just been exposed. Memories that seemed scattered suddenly connected into a clear picture. She remembered the non-stop fights between her parents and the cold look and random hate her mom always had for Thong. Everything that used to confuse her and she couldn't explain now had an answer. It was like a moment of clarity in her mind when all the mysteries of the past were finally opened, with nothing left to hide. In that heavy atmosphere, Ka stepped forward, opposite to the chaos growing in everyone else's hearts. She acted calm and gentle. Her look at Play was full of sympathy and a rare kind of forgiveness. She spoke softly, her voice warm like it was healing all the wounds. From now on, they would be family. The invitation for Play to move into the palace to live with them wasn't just a suggestion, but the opening of a new chapter where she no longer had to live a hidden life, but could return to the place where she truly belonged. Do was clearly overjoyed, jumping up and giving Play a big hug. From being best friends to becoming blood sisters, it was definitely double the joy. Only Sam stood in the corner, shaking her head, unable to accept this bitter truth. Her eyes were bloodshot with jealousy when she saw Play hit the jackpot overnight. The news about Play's life-changing also spread quickly to Aum's ears. At home, her younger sister innocently asked why sister Play hadn't come back yet. The maid irritably shouted at her to shut up. Deep down, she still felt a tiny bit of guilt toward her current drunk husband. As for Play, the first time she set foot in the gorgeous palace, she couldn't sit still, not able to get used to the high-class lady label yet. Seeing Play so stressed she was sweating, Do rushed in to cheer up her sister. A while later, Thong also walked in. He personally opened a box and put a diamond necklace of huge value around Play's neck as a welcome gift. Facing Thong's sincerity and his effort to make things right, the wall in Play's heart finally came down. She burst into tears and called him Dad. The father and daughter hugged each other while crying. For the first time in all her years alive, Play finally felt the warmth of a father's love. Because he was so eager, he immediately threw a huge party, inviting all the big names of high society to show off his precious daughter's new status. That night, the gala officially started. Play walked up gorgeously and performed the bowing ritual to her cousin Calm. Suddenly a sister out of nowhere appeared. Even though they were forced cousins, Calm acted excited on the outside to welcome her. That party night was the moment Play smiled the brightest and was the happiest since she was born. However, behind that spotlight was a marriage that was falling apart. Ka could be generous enough to welcome her husband's love child, but as a woman, she could never forgive Thong's low-down betrayal. That night, Play brought her pillow to Do's room to ask to sleep together. The two sisters lay there talking all night long, and their blood bond became even tighter. A few days later it was a small world again, and Play bumped into Sam. That meeting, which seemed like it would just pass by, immediately became tense when Sam saw Play in her new status. Her eyes flashed with jealousy she couldn't hide, and her lips curled with mockery. Unable to control her feelings, Sam let out sarcastic words, purposefully poking at the fact that Play was now a high-class lady, as if from now on, everywhere she went, people would bow down and follow her every command. Facing that provocation, Play acted surprisingly calm. She didn't get mad but just gently replied that people respected her for who she was, not for any title or class. In the place where she lives, there is no boundary between low class or high class like Sam thinks. That calm answer didn't make Sam feel better but made her laugh out loud, full of sarcasm. In Sam's eyes, Play's words were nothing but laughably naive. But Play wasn't outmatched. Catching the right moment, she immediately fought back with a sharp remark, commenting straight on Sam's haggard and tired look, as if implying that jealousy over other people's happiness had made her lose sleep. Those words hit a weak spot, making Sam get angry right away. She craned her neck, her voice full of threats, trying to use her father's love as leverage to warn her, claiming that even if Play's life changed, she could never be equal to her and Do in the love they received. However, Play just gave a light, cold smile. Without wavering, she calmly gave her final response like a decisive closing blow. To her, just having a little bit of love from her father was enough to treasure, with no need to fight or compare. She also bluntly exposed Sam's nature, a person always obsessed with vanity, endless greed, every day drowning in jealousy and prying into other people's lives. Those words weren't just a rebuttal, but like a mirror exposing all the pettiness Sam always tried to hide. Before leaving the prince's palace, Ka took Play to bow and apologize to him for the recent trouble. But the way the prince looked at Ka right now held a very different kind of tormented feeling. Every development during the day didn't seem to escape Kao's sharp eyes. Through just a few gestures, a few fleeting glances, she understood clearly the deep thoughts in her husband's heart, the man she owed so much gratitude and deep affection. When night came and the space became quiet, Kao took the lead in mentioning Ka. as if wanting to open a dialogue that both of them had avoided for a long time. Her voice was gentle but couldn't hide the bitterness as she slowly opened up. Keo bluntly admitted that years ago, when the prince was way too young, he didn't truly understand what love was. Because of that, he mistook the feelings for her as love, when in reality it was just pity, compassion for a pitiful woman. She calmly said what perhaps the prince himself had gradually realized, that only when they truly became husband and wife did he understand that the person always present in his heart, from before until now, had never been her. Those words, though gentle, carried a deep pain. Keo didn't avoid the truth. On the contrary, she affirmed clearly and decisively that the deep-rooted love, the woman the prince truly loved from the bottom of his heart, was Ka. In response, the prince maintained his usual stability. He was a man of honor and loyalty, not easily letting himself be swept away by personal emotions to hurt others. He reached out to hold Keo's hand, a grip both firm and carrying a commitment. With a steady voice, he expressed that he didn't want to break Ka's current life. Once he had brought Keo through the door, letting her step into his life with an official status, he would be responsible for that choice, spending the rest of his life caring for, protecting her, and not letting her suffer any more damage. However, Keo wanted to sacrifice herself to let the man she owed be happy. That was the only way she could do to pay back the debt of gratitude. Waiting for the prince to leave the room, Keo secretly took the bowl of tuberculosis medicine and poured it all out the window, casually throwing away the pills that were keeping her alive. She chose to destroy herself, letting the illness eat away at her until she died. Only in that way would the prince be completely free to pursue the true happiness of his life. A few days later, another big mess broke out right at the palace when Play's mom boldly showed up. She didn't hold back at all, rushing in and grabbing Play, crazily dragging her daughter, determined to pull her back to the old slums. Play struggled with all her might, firmly refusing to go along. That resistance made even more furious. Without any hesitation, she pulled out a whip and hit her over and over in broad daylight, despite the shocked looks from the people around. Right as the chaos hit its peak, Ka stepped out from inside. Her gaze was cold, and her voice sounded full of power, firmly ordering to let go of Play right away. Looking back at Aum's past, it was truly a dirty mess. Years ago, she took advantage of the dark, sneaking into Thong's bed, using her looks to seduce him so she could move up in the world. Who would have thought that after they were intimate, the man heartlessly turned his back to marry the high-class Lady Ka. Her dream of being a queen went up in smoke. To get revenge on Thong, she randomly grabbed a drunk husband to take the blame, gave birth to Play, and made that man raise another man's child. For over 10 years, she treated the child she gave birth to like a punching bag to let out her anger, cursing her without mercy just because she hated that trashy man. Unexpectedly, after all that runaround, Thong finally took back his own bloodline. Using the excuse that she was the mother of the young lady, the maid started acting up, purposely causing chaos all over the palace to let out all her long-time bitterness. Without holding back, she aimed right at Ka, throwing out bitter words to insult the official wife, completely denying her kindness, claiming it was impossible for a woman to be generous enough to accept raising her husband's secret child. Seeing that, Play panicked and ran over to stop it. She cried while begging her mom to stop and not keep insulting Lady Ka. However, the response to those pleas was only a sharp, angry look. The maid glared at her child and scolded her loudly, saying Play was an ungrateful person who hadn't been in the palace long before turning to side with outsiders to go against her own mother. Unable to keep putting up with it, Ka finally spoke up. Her voice turned noticeably cold as she warned that this was the prince's territory, so if she wanted to cause trouble, she should go back to her own place to make a mess and not dirty the air here. Just as the air was as tense as a wire, Prince Noi stepped up with the intention of making peace. However, the maid was in an extreme rage. Not only did she not hold back, but she also turned to say rude words to him too. Realizing it wasn't worth arguing with someone like that, Ka firmly didn't reply but just turned to invite Prince Noi to leave to visit Keo. That ignoring attitude made the maid even more crazy. In her rage, she brought up the old history between Ka and the prince in front of everyone, on purpose twisting it into a shady relationship and throwing out mean insults to ruin both of their reputations. Before she could even finish, Thong rushed over. But before anyone could say a word, the maid quickly changed her tone and smoothly played the victim. She cried while loudly accusing Ka of bullying her, saying Ka wanted to kick her out of the palace and take away her rights as a mother. She didn't stop there. She boldly demanded her rights, insisting that as Play's real mother, she had the right to stay at the palace and be treated just like Lady Ka. Thong immediately yelled at Aum to shut up, but his previous softness seemed to only make her push even harder. Instead of stopping, she stared right at Ka defiantly and announced her status in a loud voice. She boldly declared that if you looked at who came first, she was the one there first and was with Thong from the beginning, so she claimed she was the true lady of the family. That shameless claim was like a direct slap to Ka's face, but instead of lowering herself to argue with an uneducated, bitter woman, she just quietly squeezed her sleeves, her eyes turned cold, and she turned around to leave that noisy place without looking back. Behind her, Thong stood in the middle of the mess with a splitting headache. Everything was out of control, but being stuck, he couldn't find a good way to fix it. Finally, after hesitating for a while, he gave in and reluctantly let the maid move into the palace to live with them, just to temporarily stop the drama. But that decision accidentally started a chain of endless trouble. Right from the next morning at sunrise, started showing off her authority. She called all the servants to the yard, forcing them to line up neatly to show off her power. In the middle of the big yard, she stood there looking arrogant and boldly ordered that from now on, anyone who wanted to speak to her had to kneel down. That crazy demand was immediately met with resistance. The nanny, who was the head of the servants, didn't hide her disgust at all. She firmly refused to call master and had no intention of bowing down. Being disrespected right in front of everyone, was fuming and immediately made a scene, demanding things be put in order the way she wanted. Just as things were getting tense, Do walked by. Do saw the scene and just softly told the nanny to keep doing her job and not worry about it. However, the maid stuck her chin out, firmly forcing the nanny to kneel down just to show who was boss. Facing that rudeness, Do stayed cool. She calmly said that everyone has their own duty here, and there's no rule making servants bow to anyone. Her words were quiet but strong, making it clear that the power the maid was trying to grab didn't belong in this palace. While they were going at it, Ka walked up to back up her daughter Do. Saw the official wife and just curled her lip in disgust. But it was kind of funny, the second Ka showed up, all the servants dropped to their knees at the same time to show respect. The maid felt totally clowned and bitterly called the servants dogs who just side with whoever is winning. Then she turned to glare and talk trash to Ka, but Ka showed what a real lady looks like. She treated her like thin air, casually telling Do to go visit Kao and totally ignoring the woman who was practically foaming at the mouth. Getting ghosted like that made the maid lose it even more. She stood there, screaming nonstop at Ka's back, letting out mean words until the two of them were out of sight. Next to her, Play just stood there, her face turning bright red from embarrassment. She couldn't take it anymore, so she quickly grabbed her mom's hand and begged her with a shaky voice to stop dissing Lady Ka. But all she got back was more rage. The maid glared at her own kid and scolded her without holding back. In her rage, said that with their low status, if they didn't grab what was theirs, they would get pushed around or even kicked out eventually. Before things could even cool down, someone else suddenly showed up, Calm, who used to be the big lady years ago and is now a grown woman. She walked up looking powerful, eyes cold, and pointed right at the maid's face, telling her to stay in her lane and stop acting up. But that warning didn't stop it just added fuel to the fire. She smirked and threw a mean dig, bringing up Calm's past in a mocking tone, on purpose poking a wound everyone wanted to keep hidden. That really hit a nerve. Calm's face twisted, and she got mad faster than she could control it. In the blink of an eye, the two women lunged at each other, pulling hair and going at it, with hits landing one after another in the middle of the yard like a total mess. It wasn't until Thong showed up just in time and yelled at them to stop that the chaotic fight finally paused. The place slowly quieted down, but the leftovers of the fight were still hanging in the air, signaling that the trouble ahead wasn't over yet. That night, the consequences started hitting Thong hard, when he and Ka got into a huge fight. Thong loudly blamed his wife for being too weak and not using her authority as the lady of the house to fix things, saying that if she let the maid run wild, the mansion would be a mess sooner or later. Facing those criticisms, Ka just coldly fired back. She bluntly said that since Thong caused everything, he should deal with it himself. She wasn't going to turn herself into some mean woman who just bullies others. After saying that, Ka firmly took her blankets and pillows to another room to sleep alone, leaving Thong standing still in the room, lonely and confused. Outside, Aum had been eavesdropping from start to finish. Witnessing the whole scene, she couldn't hide her satisfaction, and her heart was filled with joy. To Aum, this was like a golden opportunity, opening a path for her to sneak in step by step and get closer to the boss lady position she had always craved. In the middle of the night, waiting for the mansion to go silent, Aum dressed in very thin clothes and sneaked into Thong's room. Thinking she still had her old charms, she flirtatiously sat on the edge of the bed and reached out her hand to massage and lure Thong in. Unexpectedly, Thong heartlessly brushed her hand away and kicked her out right then and there. The lesson from betraying Ka was still fresh in his mind, so he didn't dare go back to his old ways. Seeing that using her looks didn't work, the maid immediately switched to a different trick. She quickly started playing the victim card, crying and wailing about the 10+ years she had suffered and bit her tongue to raise play. While Aum was feeling excited, thinking her stories would soften Thong's heart, she suddenly got a reality check. Not only was Thong not moved at all, he even grabbed her collar, dragged her outside, and threw her hard through the door. He growled a warning, forbidding her from ever setting foot in his room again. Her plan to get close completely failed. Aum was both in pain and angry, and her heart was full of resentment. Having no other choice, she had to quietly retreat and keep waiting for another chance to make her move. Meanwhile, at the prince's mansion, another tragedy was unfolding. Kay was resting when suddenly a bloody cough hit her. She stumbled, wanting to call the servants, but before she could even step out the door, she collapsed on the floor and passed out. Her tuberculosis had reached the final stage. Kay's time on this earth was now counted in days. Prince Noi got the news and rushed over in a panic. The news that Kay was in critical condition quickly reached the mansion too. Surprisingly enough, when Calm heard this news, she immediately rushed to write an urgent letter and ordered a servant to ride a horse to the post office to send it quickly to her trashy husband, Din. Jealousy and envy could wait until later. Calm knew all too well that the man always kept Kay's image in his heart. No matter what, she didn't want her husband to live with regret for the rest of his life for not making it in time to see his ex-wife's face one last time. As for Ka, she also rushed to visit Kay. On the hospital bed, Kao lay there gasping, her breath weak as if it were about to fade away. In that fragile moment, she gripped Ka's hand tight, using the last of her strength to speak her final words. Kao opened up about the whole truth, that the person Prince Noi truly loved was Ka. Even though they were called husband and wife, there was never any romantic feelings between Kao and him. It was all just respect, like the bond between siblings. Those sincere words left Ka stunned and unable to say a word. Her heart was racing as she realized Prince Noi's feelings for her were still as deep as they were at the beginning. But ironically, right now she was Thong's wife. That bond meant she had no way back, even though in her heart, old memories that hadn't faded yet still lingered. Outside the sick room, Som still hadn't changed her bitter nature. When she saw Do coming over with good intentions to comfort her, she immediately brushed her off with eyes full of resentment. Som let out wicked curses, pouring out all the bitterness in her heart, wishing that others would also have to taste a tragedy like hers. Even though Do just stood there quietly without responding, the air around them still turned heavy from the poisonous words Som had just spoken. At this time, Pa walked over to call Do to go home. Som saw her crush and cleared her throat to call after him, craving a little love and attention from the boy. But the young master had seen through Som's dark, evil soul long ago, so he coldly ignored her and walked straight on. Som shed bitter tears with extreme hate for the whole world rising in her heart, because she thought fate was too unfair to her. A few days later, everyone gathered together to hear the doctor report the situation. Prince Noi sadly announced that the doctor had shaken his head in defeat, advising the family to prepare for Kao's funeral. In the middle of the morning heavy atmosphere, suddenly burst in out of nowhere, demanding to see Kao at all costs. Prince Noi saw this and frowned in annoyance, coldly announcing that Kao had just fallen asleep, then bluntly kicked her out to wait. Instead of listening, suddenly lost it, screaming and crying loudly with a high-pitched voice, purposely making a scene in the middle of a place of mourning. The things she said were full of bitter hidden meanings, clearly aiming at the old relationship between Prince Noi and Lady Ka. That rudeness and over-the-top behavior made everyone there lose their temper, and the already tense air became even more suffocating. Play turned bright red with embarrassment and couldn't stand the sight, so she quickly ran over and dragged the maid out to stop her from causing more chaos. Being dragged away helplessly, the maid could only fume, her eyes full of rage. Right then Som quickly grabbed the chance. She walked up to Play, lowered her voice to a whisper, and poured calculating words into her ear. Som cleverly planted seeds of doubt, implying that Do wasn't truly sincere about seeing Play as a good sister, and that it was all just a fake act. According to Som, behind those friendly calls was a whole plot to kick Play out of the family, because her appearance didn't just threaten the wealth but also shook their father's love for the others. Those poisonous whispers were like drops of black ink creeping into her mind, making the already messy mood even more complicated and full of hidden waves. Seeing that Som was about to lose her mom, Play felt bad for her and didn't bother arguing, just staying quiet and letting it go. Som thought she had successfully brainwashed Play, so she fake-hugged Play to act like they were really close. That night, when Lady Ka's group just got back to the palace, Kam hurried out to ask about Kao's situation. She looked truly regretful, fearing she was the reason Kao was pushed to this dead end. Lady Ka gently told her not to think too much about it. Everything was fine until walked in with a grumpy face again, continuing to act like a professional mourner complaining for Kao. Kam had hated her for a long time, and hearing that made her so mad she rushed in to handle her right then and there. Right now the scene was a total mess. Kam swung her hand to hit the maid, but Play rushed in to stop them. During the struggle, Kam accidentally pushed hard, making Play fall and hit her head on the edge of the table, and blood came out. While Kam was panicking and leaning down to check on Play, the maid took the chance to grab Kam's hair tight, hitting her hard and making her lose her balance and fall to the ground. The two women lunged at each other and started tearing each other apart, just like a chaotic market. Only when Thong ran in and dragged Kam away did the fight finally end. Kam sobbed loudly, accusing of not only hitting her but also daring to insult Lady Ka. Thong was furious and pointed right at face, threatening that if she caused any more trouble, he would kick her out of the house immediately. But the maid played the victim card, denying everything and saying Kam started it first. She even used Play's bleeding wound as a shield, saying Kam pushed her daughter down. Kam was speechless because she really did push Play by mistake. So Thong turned and scolded Kam harshly, and the fight was finally hushed up. However, the real conflict broke out between Thong and Ka. After everything, Ka tiredly explained that the maid was the one who started it and provoked Kam first, making Kam lose her cool and strike. She tried to explain because she wanted Thong to understand the whole story, but instead of what she hoped for, Thong unreasonably turned around and blamed his wife. He loudly questioned why Ka just stood there watching and didn't stop them, as if all the mistakes were piled on her shoulders. Hearing those blames, Ka was completely stunned and then quickly sank into deep disappointment. All her efforts to explain seemed to become meaningless. That night, once again, the couple got into a heated argument. Finally, it all ended in the usual coldness, as both turned their backs on each other, each holding their own thoughts, letting the distance between them grow further. The next morning, Som brought a bowl of medicine to feed her mom. As the medicine touched her lips, Kao grimaced, and an intense wave of nausea hit her. Som panicked and quickly brought a spittoon to catch it. But what came out of Kao's mouth wasn't just dry coughs anymore. It was fresh blood. Looking at the dark-colored spittoon, Sam was scared to the point of shaking. Seeing her thin mom with breath as weak as a flickering candle, she felt a hunch that the moment of parting was near. Taking this chance, the drama queen Sam immediately ran to find Master Pa to play the victim card. She sobbed piteously, acting out a heartbreaking and painful scene. Master Pa was naturally kind, and seeing a girl crying like that, he didn't have the heart to push her away. As he reached out to comfort her, Sam took the opportunity to fall right into Pa's arms, sobbing and begging him for help. Master Pa felt a bit soft-hearted and wrapped his arms around her. But in a corner that Master Pa couldn't see, the corner of Sam's lips slowly curled into a smug and extremely wicked smile. Using her own mother's near death to win back affection and trap a man, only a wicked brat like Sam could pull off such a crazy stunt. 3 days later, thanks to Kam's express letter, Kao's ex-husband finally hurried to the prince's mansion. The father and daughter faced each other after years of being apart, and Sam coldly gave a perfunctory bow. But when she saw her biological brother with her dad, she rushed to hug him, sobbing and telling him how their mom had been coughing up blood for days. Prince Noi personally led Din and Sa into Kao's room. She was unconscious, but hearing her son's familiar call, she suddenly woke up. She didn't expect that before she closed her eyes forever, she would see her own child again, and Kao was both happy and sad, with tears streaming down. She choked up and thanked Kam for not mistreating her son over the years. At this point, all the hate in Kao's heart for the mistress Kam had vanished into thin air. She even bitterly realized that if Kam hadn't stepped in that day, she might have spent her whole life suffering like a slave, enduring her mother-in-law's bullying to the end. But when Kao's eyes met her trashy husband, all the words she wanted to say suddenly got stuck in her throat. Prince Noi was very thoughtful and understanding. He quietly called the son outside, leaving the last private space for the two people who used to be husband and wife. The room suddenly became quiet, leaving only two people who used to love each other and promised the world but hurt each other deeply. All the past hate and jealousy didn't mean anything anymore. Din cried and apologized. He regretted so much bringing Kam home as a second wife, and regretted heartlessly causing pain for his devoted wife. Kao also cried. She apologized because her blind jealousy pushed both of them to wrong decisions that couldn't be fixed. The two who used to love each other deeply now held each other tight too late. If there were an if, they definitely would never choose to hurt each other's hearts, but would cherish every single minute and second. The man tremblingly took out a wishing lantern, his hands shaking a little from emotion. His voice choked up as he gently told Kao to make a wish, as if it were the last thing he could do for her. On the bed, Kao lay quietly, her face pale and her white lips shaking a little. She used her last bit of strength to whisper a fragile but lingering wish. In that short moment, all the regrets and unfinished feelings seemed to pour into her words. Kao softly wished that if there was a next life, she only hoped they could meet again and be together like a debt of fate that hadn't ended. Saying this, Kao's last bit of life force ran out. She grabbed the spittoon to throw up, but her weak hands had no strength left and dropped it on the floor. Fresh blood spilled all over the ground. Din wailed piteously. He knew the woman he loved most in this life was really about to leave him. Hearing the crying, Sam's group panicked and rushed in for a final goodbye. Gasping for breath, Kao used her remaining strength to tell Sam to let go of the hate and live a new peaceful life. Turning to Prince Noi, she smiled and wished that he would find happiness with the woman he truly loved. After saying those final words, Kao took her last breath and peacefully left this world. It was a release, and luckily at the moment she passed away, the people she loved and the people who loved her were all there. At home, hearing the news, Kam sat blankly and burst into tears. The big grudge between her and Kao finally ended with the official wife leaving. But by her mom's casket, Sam had an extremely evil look. She made a solemn vow to her mom's spirit to make everyone who stepped on or hurt her mom pay the price. Sam hated how unfair life was, wondering why others were so happy, while she lost her most loved mother forever. A few days later, Prince Noi arranged a very grand funeral for Kao. Everyone cried for the beautiful woman with a tragic fate. After the funeral, Kam and Lord Thong drank together to drown their sorrows. These two shared a bitter feeling, both loving people who didn't love them back. Kam loved husband Din, but his heart was stuck on Kao. Lord Thong loved Ka, but Ka's heart always belonged to Prince Noi. That night, using the booze to forget, Lord Thong got wasted and passed out. This was the golden chance the maid had been waiting for. While Lord Thong was drunk and out of it, she sneaked into his room to pull a dirty trick. The next morning when Ka pushed open her husband's door, a disgusting scene hit her eyes, making everyone there freeze. Aum acted shy under the blanket, wriggling as she sat up on Lord Thong's bed. Clearly, this was a perfect trap directed by her. Aum acted smug, throwing a challenging and proud look at Ka. For a prestigious, proud official wife like Ka, this was truly a huge humiliation that could never be washed away. Having hit the jackpot, the next day the maid started acting like a queen. She stuck her chin up and ordered the servants around, yelling at them to quickly serve food and water to the new lady. Ka was choked up with resentment, not wanting to look at these dirty people, and turned to leave. Just then Lord Thong stumbled out. He held his head, saying it hurt like a hammer, his mind completely blank, not remembering what beastly thing he did last night. Seeing Lord Thong, the maid immediately flipped her act, playing the sweet wife, rushing to pour hot tea and massage his head, on purpose acting lovey-dovey right in front of Ka to piss her off. Fed up with him, Lady Ka didn't say a word and planned to take Do to help with Kao's funeral. But Lord Thong was being jealous for no reason, hinting that Lady Ka was using the funeral as an excuse to go on secret dates with Prince Noi. The maid being there plus the husband's blind jealousy officially dug a huge hole between the couple. The grown-ups drama quickly spread to the younger generation, simmering and then breaking out into cracks that were hard to fix. Play took the lead and went to Do, trying to start a conversation to save their sisterly bond, hoping to close the gap that was getting wider between them. However, all she got back for her kindness was coldness. Do brushed Play's hand away, her eyes having no warmth left. Her voice turned hard and firm, as if cutting all ties, declaring that from now on, it was better if they saw each other as strangers with no connection at all. Somewhere else, Lady Ka hid in a corner crying secretly because she was so frustrated. Prince Noi happened to walk by and saw the woman he loved shedding tears, so he kindly checked on her. Lady Ka was usually private and didn't want to air her dirty family laundry. But Prince Noi was too smart. He easily guessed that the maid was playing the mistress trying to take over game again. He gently comforted her and handed Lady Ka a handkerchief to wipe her tears. It was a warm and very sweet move. But unfortunately, was hiding in the bushes and caught this whole sentimental moment. Having caught the official wife, she gave a sneaky smirk. This time she was determined to make a big deal out of it. When night fell, started looking for trouble again. She spread rumors that Kao had barely passed away and wasn't even cold yet, but Lady Ka was already sneaking around with Prince Noi. She even claimed she saw them on a private date with her own eyes. In the back garden, Lady Ka told her to shut her mouth and stop using dirty words to insult her. Seeing the maid rambling on, Lord Thong didn't defend his wife at all but flew into a rage, turning to question Lady Ka if it was true. The maid standing nearby took the chance to tease more and spice things up. So disappointed and frustrated, Lady Ka decided to get a divorce right then and there. Even though Lord Thong tried to hold her back, she was firm about not letting anyone step on her pride anymore. Sadly, Lord Thong thought Lady Ka was rushing the divorce just to find new happiness with Prince Noi. Those words were like a knife to the heart, making Lady Ka feel completely hopeless. That very night, she decided to move back to her parents' house. Early the next morning, she packed her bags and took her daughter Do to leave. Before leaving, she looked at the house one last time. Lord Thong walked out with eyes full of regret, but the thing he couldn't stand leaving the most was Do, the daughter he had raised himself for so long. When Do was about to run back to hug him one last time, the maid stepped out with an arrogant face and glared at the girl. Do had to sadly say goodbye and then followed her mom out of there. Play was also very sad. She knelt down to apologize to her father for her mother. At this point, Lord Thong only had Play left by his side as a daughter, so he hugged her to comfort her. Outside the door, the maid laughed proudly because she thought the time to be the boss lady had come. Sometime later, Prince Noi was always quietly by Lady Ka's side, caring for her like soulmates. Time passed, Prince Noi's hair turned gray, and Lady Ka's face showed signs of aging. Finally, Prince Noi worked up the courage to express his feelings. Even though she felt the same way, Lady Ka was too confused and turned him down for a bit. After thinking it over carefully, Lady Ka finally opened her heart, accepted Prince Noi's love, and promised to grow old together with him. In another turn of events one day, Lord Thong called all the servants together to announce something important. Was excited, thinking she was finally going to officially become the lady. To her surprise, Lord Thong ordered people to clean out a small storage shed, kicked her out there, and banned her from setting foot in the villa ever again. He couldn't stand her anymore. It turned out she used dirty tricks to kick the mistress out, but in the end, her ambition to rule the mansion went up in smoke. The maid screamed and blamed him for being heartless, then tried to drag her daughter Play away to come with her. Lord Thong stopped her and gave Play the choice. Because she didn't want to keep being a tool for her mother's schemes, Play tearfully chose to stay with Lord Thong. The maid was furious and cursed her daughter for being ungrateful. In another place, the happy scene between Prince Noi and Lady Ka happened to catch Sam's eye. She hated Ka and her daughter, swearing that if she wasn't happy, then nobody else was allowed to be happy. She was crazy jealous when she saw Prince Noi give an expensive necklace to Do, thinking Do was stealing everyone's love. Just when everything was messy, two masters unexpectedly returned after studying abroad, making the mood in the mansion more lively than ever. At the grand party, Pa acted very friendly to all the girls there. When he came up to Play, he gently took her hand and leaned down to kiss it as a polite gesture. That action made Play feel a bit fluttery, and her heart skipped a beat at how charming he was. Meanwhile, Sam appeared in a gorgeous red dress, looking sexy but unable to hide the envy in her eyes. When she noticed Pa seemed especially close to Do, she immediately started scheming. Without hesitating, Sam started making a secret plot. She purposely introduced Do to a playboy named Thana, who was known for being a smooth player who chased innocent girls. His goal was very clear, to get close to and play a pure person like Do. From the first time they met, Thana didn't hide his intentions at all. The way he looked at Do was very flirty and shady, as if she were a target in his sights. After that, Sam asked Thana how he felt about Do. He showed clear interest, but this interest was full of dishonest plans. A few days later, Sam set up a get-together and purposely dragged Do along to give Thana a chance to flirt and get close to her. Being a high-class lady, Do didn't fit in at all with the loud nightclub vibe. She excused herself to go to the restroom, leaving Sam's brother behind to hang out with everyone. Unexpectedly, Just when Do was alone, the hunter Thana followed her outside. He planned to use a heart-to-heart approach, inviting her for a walk to close the distance. But luckily, Pa showed up just in time and shut down his shady plan. Seeing right away that Thana was no good, the two men threw sarcastic shade and secretly attacked each other. Seeing the tense mood, Sam had to step in to play peacemaker. Waiting until the other two were gone, Sam urged Thana to move fast, since she threw this party just for him to handle Do. Thana confidently promised he would ruin Do's purity exactly as planned. To keep the plan going, Thana invited the whole group to his beachfront villa for a barbecue. While everyone was busy playing in the water, Thana kept hanging around Do. While they were having fun, that group of rich kids brought up Thana's past to mock him. They called him a nouveau riche guy who came from a poor farming background and got rich selling weapons instead of being some prestigious noble. Hitting a sore spot from his past, Thana got so mad he crushed the wine glass in his hand, letting the glass shards cut into his hand and make it bleed. Seeing that, Do gently bandaged his wound and told him not to worry about those insulting words from people. Do's kindness and warmth touched a deep corner in Thana's heart. By dinner, Thana looked at those nobles with a deadly stare and was about to go out and teach them a lesson, but Do stopped him just in time. Seeing the two of them acting like they had feelings but were shy about it, Pa sat nearby seeing red from jealousy. On top of that, Sam added fuel to the fire by provoking him, saying the relationship between those two looked shady. That night, Pa went to find Do to talk, but he couldn't control himself and ended up yelling at her. Do also cared about the relationship between him and Sam, but because she was gentle, she chose to back away. She told him to go find Sam, saying she didn't want to fight for anything anymore. After saying that, she went out to the beach alone and cried quietly. Behind that weak look was a mind full of heavy burdens. Her parents' divorce and all the events over the past 5 years forced this noble lady to grow up fast and carry everything. At this moment, Pooh walked over to comfort her. All of Do's bottled-up resentment exploded, and she couldn't be strong anymore. In the quiet night, Do couldn't sleep, so she went out to the garden for some fresh air. Right then, Thana also walked up. Two people with their own private sorrows suddenly found a strange connection in that moment. After telling Do to go to sleep early so she wouldn't catch a cold, Thana walked her back to her room. As soon as she left, Sam suddenly appeared with a smug face. She reminded Thana not to forget the deal between them to find any way to ruin Do's purity. Sam wanted to see if Pa would even care about her anymore if Do wasn't clean anymore. Thana just gave a meaningful smile, with a dark plan already laid out in his head. The chance came during the beach trip the next day. Because she stood in the sea breeze too long the night before, Do had a fever and had to stay at the villa to rest. Thana pretended to want to call a doctor, but Do didn't want to ruin the fun, so she told everyone to go play. At the beach, while Sam tried every way to split Pa and Do with rumors about them dating privately last night, Thana was planning to sneak back. In the middle of the afternoon, he made an excuse to check on Do and drove away in the only yacht, which meant nobody could leave the island without him. Right then, dark clouds moved in, and a terrifying rainstorm hit. Sam and Pa had to hide from the rain in a cave. She planned to use this chance to flirt and get close, but Pa had a stone face, didn't bother to say a word, and left to rejoin everyone. Meanwhile, Thana successfully made it back to the villa. He pushed open the door to Do's room, making her wake up in shock. Looking at Thana's eyes at that moment, anyone would think a nightmare was about to hit the poor girl. 2 hours later, when the storm cleared, everyone rushed back to the villa in a panic. Worried about Do, Pa burst into the room and caught a very suspicious scene. Thana had just finished showering and wasn't fully dressed yet. Without saying a word, Pa landed a heavy punch on Thana's face, turning the scene into a total mess. It turned out that everything that happened before was just a misunderstanding. Thana had actually called a doctor to check on Do, and because he was worried she might catch something or accidentally spread it to others, he arranged a private room for her to rest. As for him taking off his shirt earlier, it was simply because he had just come back from the rain and his clothes were soaked, so he had to change. That night, Sam quietly sneaked into Thana's room in a very angry mood. Unable to hold back her frustration, she immediately questioned him, asking why he went easy and didn't handle Do according to the plan they made before. But at that very moment, the image of Do gently and carefully bandaging his wound popped into Thana's head. Her kindness and sincerity made his heart waver for the first time. The guy who was used to cruel actions suddenly didn't have the heart to hurt a girl as pure as a flower untouched by dust. Facing Sam's harsh questioning, Thana just slightly smirked with a hint of sarcasm in his voice. He reminded her not to be too arrogant with her schemes, because the one who wants to win too much is sometimes the one who easily ends up with nothing. Ever since that incident, Thana suddenly became a regular at Do's house, coming by every day to talk and keep her company. Pa saw this and got annoyed, constantly jumping in to ruin things and throwing sarcastic comments at Do. Even though she was wrongly scolded, Do chose to stay silent. Seeing this, Sam pulled Pa out to the garden, forcing him to admit his feelings for Do, but he flat out denied it. She started bringing up old debts, reminding him of his marriage promise from years ago before he went to study abroad. However, 5 years had passed, and Pa's heart had changed. The Do of today was no longer a shy bud but had blossomed like a radiant rose, many times more charming than Sam. Seeing Pa's change of heart, Sam went on a hunger strike and locked herself in her room crying. Prince Noi saw this and went in to comfort her. When he found out his daughter was being rejected, he promised to step in and fix everything. Since Kao had entrusted Som to him before she passed away, he couldn't just stand by and watch her suffer. Out of love for his adopted daughter, the prince was determined to give Som what she wanted. He went to see Pa, using his authority as an elder to pressure him, demanding he take responsibility and follow through on his old engagement with Som. Having no other choice, Pa had to announce at dinner that he was going to marry Som. With a diamond ring worth a fortune in her hand, Som couldn't wait any longer and went straight to Do to brag. She kept showing off her ringed hand, smugly asking Do if the diamond was sparkly enough. Her goal was nothing but to rub salt in the wound of her poor friend who was secretly in love with Pa. But man proposes, God disposes. Just as Som was excitedly getting her wedding dress ready, her biological father suddenly fainted. The wedding had to be put on hold for him to recover. This drove Som crazy. She didn't worry about her dad at all but instead felt hateful, thinking both her dad and grandma were roadblocks to her happiness. She decided to go back to her paternal home to start her plan for revenge for her late mother, Kao. As soon as she got home, Som ran into Kam, her dad's current wife. Kam thought Som had moved past the old drama and welcomed her warmly, but she only gave her a wicked smile that made Kam shiver. Som used a sweet act to win over her grandma, the evil woman from back then who now couldn't walk and could only lie in bed. She pretended to want to stay and care for her to find a way to kick Kam out of the house. For the first step, Som framed grandma's close servant for stealing a bracelet to get her kicked out, making it easier to make her move. Even more wicked, Som started going after her own dad. She secretly swapped his medicine for a different kind, wanting him to live in pain to pay for what he did to her mom. Som also messed with his head by filling his room with yellow orchids, the flowers her mom loved most. Seeing the flowers, the dad felt endless guilt, remembering memories with his ex-wife while not knowing his own daughter was pushing him to the edge. At the same time, the war between Som and Kam officially broke out. Kam wasn't someone to mess with, and when Som insulted her, the two of them had a fiery argument. Day by day, Som's words became more poisonous. She kept insulting Kam for being shameless, bringing up the past when Kam cut into her mother's marriage. Not stopping there, Som even dragged Do into it, claiming Do's whole family were shameless people who specialized in stealing other people's men. Unable to take it anymore, Kam slapped Som hard. However, this was exactly what she was waiting for. Som immediately smashed the dishes, tumbled to the ground, and wailed piteously to act like she was being treated cruelly by her stepmother. When her dad and grandma ran over, she framed Kam for bullying her. As a result, Kam was helplessly kicked out of the house by grandma. Kam bitterly realized that years ago, she and grandma bullied Kyo, and now she was the one getting kicked out by her mother-in-law. Most wicked of all, Som's next target was grandma. While grandma was fast asleep in her wheelchair by the river, she coldly pushed her straight into the deep water before pretending to scream for help. Grandma luckily survived, but she couldn't move her body, lost her voice, and had to stay in bed for others to take care of her. In the quiet hospital room, Som finally showed her true colors. While massaging grandma's legs, she leaned in and whispered creepy things, bringing up the past when grandma pushed her mom to the edge. She squeezed grandma's cheeks hard and coldly admitted she was the one who made her fall into the river for revenge. Grandma could only stare wide-eyed at her granddaughter with a cold look, unable to say a word. Pa accidentally found out about this terrifying secret. Wanting to protect Som's last bit of dignity, he didn't tell everyone the truth but firmly called off the engagement. As for Som, she officially laid her cards on the table with her own dad. She declared she was cutting ties with him, saying that from the day he brought Kam home, their bond as father and daughter was over. She swore she would make everyone who made her suffer pay a heavy price. Even though the engagement was cancelled because of her own sins, Som blindly blamed everything on Do. She believed Pa left her because he was still thinking about his ex. She went to Do and aggressively forced her to make a solemn oath that she would never be with Pa. To prove she was innocent, Do naively made a vow that she would never have any relationship with Pa again. Meanwhile, Pa became the talk of the town among the rich folks. People mocked him for being a betrayer and also laughed at Som for getting dumped at the last minute. While feeling down, Pa turned to drinking to drown his sorrows and talk things out with Play. Even though he knew Play had feelings for him, he selfishly kept her close just for comfort and hoped for a chance to get to Do. Pooh warned his brother not to play with feelings, or he would end up hurting Play too. Not wanting to live under the same roof as Som to avoid more fights, Do decided to move back in with her real dad, Thong. Before she left, Som didn't forget to use bitter words to remind Do to keep her oath and not sneak around with Pa. Hearing that Do moved away, Pa rushed over to find her, but she firmly refused to see him. Do hid behind the door, looking at Pa with eyes full of pain. She chose to step back not just because of the oath, but also because she knew Play, her close friend, also loved him. She didn't want to hurt someone else for her own happiness. Thana, after seeing Som get dumped, felt even more interested in her stubborn personality. He decided to help Som by throwing a huge birthday party at his villa, inviting everyone to try and turn things around. At the fancy party, Som showed up looking gorgeous in a bright red dress, standing out in the crowd of nobles. But the attention she got wasn't exactly admiration. Whispers and mocking looks from all around were constantly aimed at her, especially after that loud cancelled engagement earlier. The atmosphere got heavy, making Sam feel uncomfortable even though she tried to stay proud. Standing next to her, Thana noticed the wavering in her eyes. He softly spoke words of encouragement, reminding her that the more others look down on you, the more you have to keep your head high and keep moving, and not let the world's contempt become a burden that crushes you. Those words seemed to give her a little more confidence, helping Sam keep her snobby look among the prying eyes. Not long after, Do and Play both showed up at the party. As soon as she saw them, Sam immediately went over with a very provocative attitude. She purposely brought up that old oath, forcing Do to remember her boundaries and not forget what she had promised. Meanwhile, Play had absolutely no idea that the coldness Do had shown Pa all this time was actually her giving him up for Play's sake. Taking the chance when he saw Do purposely avoiding him and walking quickly into the inner hall, Pa immediately chased after her. Feelings that had been bottled up for so long finally went past the limit of what he could handle. When the distance between the two was closed, Pa couldn't hold it back anymore and blurted out the thing he had hidden for so many years, that he loved Do very much. That was exactly what Do had been waiting for her whole youth, ever since the days when she silently carried a one-sided love for him in her heart. But now, when that confession was finally spoken, her heart was tied up by the old oath and her deep friendship with Play. Torn between feelings and responsibility, Do was forced to squeeze the pain tight in her heart. She tried to keep a cold look, saying firm words as if trying to tie a knot in her own heart. Do admitted that maybe when she was a kid she was obsessed with him, but now she had grown up, and those feelings, even though they were deep, had ended a very long time ago. Do's harsh rejection left Pa stunned, while her heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. Do insisted that between her and Pa, there was only friendship left, not love. She decisively cut off his last ray of hope and then ran to the garden, sobbing her heart out. Like a habit, Pooh was the first one there to comfort and protect her when she was at her weakest. As for Sam, she was furious because she was being mocked in front of the crowd. She blocked Pa's way to demand an explanation for the cancelled engagement. Unexpectedly, Pa didn't even bother to apologize but just coldly asked for the expensive diamond ring back to end all contact. Humiliated and resentful, Sam took off the ring, threw it straight at him and planned to go home. At this moment, Thana stopped her just in time, declaring that tonight he would be her protector. At the masquerade ball, Do dressed up as a beautiful ballet dancer, while Pooh was the tin soldier. Just like in Andersen's fairy tale, the tin soldier always loves the ballet dancer silently but never dares to touch her. Pooh was the same. He was always there to protect Do without asking her to love him back. Watching the person he loved dancing beside his brother, Pa used alcohol to drown his sorrows and then left the party. Play was the one who helped him out to the garden to take care of him. Taking the chance since Do had rejected him, Play worked up all her courage to express her feelings, admitting that she had loved him for a long time. After that night, even though Pooh tried his best to fix things for his brother and Do, Pa gave up because his pride was hurt. He announced that he would marry Play. To end all the painful dragging on, Do made a shocking decision, suggesting she marry Pooh. Even though he knew Do didn't love him yet, Pooh agreed because he didn't want to see her marry some random stranger. After hearing the news from his own brother, even though Pa was extremely heartbroken, there was nothing else he could do. A month later, the wedding took place. On the wedding night, Pooh proved to be a real gentleman. He chose to sleep separately to respect his wife, promising that they would only share a room when she truly loved him. Spending a lot of time together eventually sparks love, and Pooh's sincerity finally moved Do to love him for real. Meanwhile, Pa was drowning in booze all day. Sam showed up again, mocking him about the happy life of Do and her husband. Play immediately stepped in to save him, insulting Sam as a cheap bar girl. To drive Sam away, Pa also played along by hugging Play tight as a shield, making Sam explode with rage. However, a terrifying event happened. After a night of heavy drinking at a bar, Sam woke up in shock and found out that her purity had been ruined by a bad person. Was the person behind this that player Thana or some other plot? After leaving the old bar with Pa, Play and him went somewhere else to keep drinking. Originally planning to tell Pa to go home, Play ended up going all out and drank a whole big bottle of wine. In her drunken state, her energy and smarts completely attracted Pa. When she boldly confessed her love, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. He realized he had started having special feelings for this lively girl. At that time, Sam went to Thana to vent her feelings. Even though she said she hated him, she was still lying to herself that Pa was with Play just to piss her off. Taking advantage of Sam being wasted, Thana took her to a hotel. Even though Sam struggled and wanted to go home, she had fallen into the hands of a fierce wolf. Waking up the next morning, Sam felt completely humiliated knowing she had lost her purity to the man she had always looked down on. Thana finally revealed who he really was. He had loved her for a long time because he saw a rebellious side in her that was just like him. He forced Sam to get engaged and promised to protect her forever. Even though Sam hated it because she thought he was beneath her, she agreed since she couldn't have Pa, secretly vowing that no one else would get to be happy. As for Do, she had truly started to have feelings for Pooh. One night, she suggested they share a room, but Pooh misunderstood, thinking she only pitied him. He coldly turned her down and used the silent treatment to keep his distance, staying out all day and avoiding her at night. This really hurt Do's heart. Do told her feelings to Play. Play told her to speak her mind to her husband. But a terrible misunderstanding happened. Do happened to see Pooh and Play comforting each other. In reality, they were just relating to each other's situations. Right then, the evil girl Sam showed up to add fuel to the fire, making Do believe her husband and Play were having a shady affair. Things hit a breaking point when Do walked past the study and overheard the two brothers talking. Pa said he truly loved Play. And hearing that, Pooh felt relieved because he didn't feel guilty about loving his brother's girl anymore. Pa joked for Pooh not to steal Play from him. Bitterly, Do only heard that last joke. She completely broke down, believing Pooh loved Play too. Heartbroken, the very next day she packed her bags and moved back to her mom's for comfort. When Play came to talk her out of it, Do only responded with a cold, distant attitude. A beautiful friendship and two marriages that had just started were on the edge of breaking, just because of words that weren't said. Play didn't give up. She planned to call Pooh to clear things up with Do. As soon as she left, homewrecker Sam appeared, purposefully teasing that Play was Pooh's soulmate, making Do feel even more pained and insecure. Meanwhile, Play took the lead and met Pooh at the beach, hoping to talk clearly to advise him. With the wind blowing and waves crashing, she kept her voice calm but firm. With all her trust, she insisted that Do only loved Pooh now, and her past feelings for Pa were long gone. In her heart, Play believed she was doing the right thing. She tried her best to fix the cracks, hoping to help her best friend who was also her half-sister find true happiness. Every word she spoke was sincere, wanting all the misunderstandings to be fixed. But fate seemed to like messing with people. While Play was trying to build hope for others, another trick was silently being set up, waiting to explode and pull everyone into a new whirlpool of misunderstanding and hurt. Do went to Pa's house. There the two had a sincere talk. They realized they both found new happiness and weren't hurting over each other anymore. Pa comforted Do like a big brother to a little sister, and gave her a gentle hug to encourage her. Right then Pooh came home and saw this. From his angle, he mistook that hug for a passionate kiss. Jealousy went straight to his head, and he immediately went back to the beach, telling Play that Do and his brother were sneaking around. Hearing this, Play was stunned, believing that Pa had been lying to her all along. It didn't stop there. Sam landed another killing blow. She met Do and made up a story that she just saw Pooh and Play kissing passionately at the beach. Misunderstanding on top of misunderstanding, no one was calm enough to explain. As soon as Pooh got home, he loudly blamed his brother with very harsh words, even insulting Do's honor. The two brothers had a tense standoff and a fierce fight. In the middle of the heated atmosphere, Do suddenly appeared and firmly declared that they should get a divorce. At the same time, Play also firmly gave back the engagement ring to Pa. Both couples were on the edge of breaking up just because they didn't trust each other or talk things out. Seeing her plan to split them up worked, Sam decided to pull her last move to force Pennsylvania to marry her. That night, she put on a sexy nightdress and sneaked into Pa's room to seduce him. When he kicked her out, she went crazy and tore her own clothes, then hurt herself to frame Pa for assault. When Pooh ran in to stop her, the evil girl, Sam didn't stop but twisted the truth, screaming that both brothers were teaming up to do something dirty. Sam's self-destructive move was shut down by her own brother. Saw told his sister to stop digging herself deeper into sin because it would shame the spirit of their late mother. Hearing about her mom, Sam screamed like a maniac and ran to the beach sobbing piteously. She didn't feel sorry at all. Instead, she hated everyone even more, swearing to make anyone who hurt her pay a high price. The next day was the wedding for Sam and Thana. Prince Noi reminded everyone to be safe because a big storm was coming in the evening. Nobody expected this warning to become a tool for Sam to carry out her dirty plot. Noticing that Play and Do wanted a private spot to make up after many days of a cold war, Sam pretended to be kind. She gave the two sisters a food basket and suggested they should row a boat to the quiet beach across from them to talk comfortably and avoid the wedding noise. She purposely hid the news about the big storm. Before leaving, Do even asked Sam to tell her mom where they were going, but when she got back to the villa, Sam stayed silent like she knew nothing. At the quiet beach, the two sisters finally opened up. Do admitted the one she truly loved was Pooh, and Play also confirmed she only loved Pa. They were shocked to realize Sam had been fooling them all this time with lies about hugging and kissing this person or that person. All the misunderstandings were fixed. The two sisters hugged and cried their eyes out because they almost lost their bond. But right then the sky turned dark, thunder crashed, and a violent storm hit. At the villa, everyone started panicking and looking for the two sisters. When Prince Noi questioned Sam why she didn't warn them about the storm, she shamelessly lied and said she never met them. However, a servant stepped out to testify that he saw Sam see them off to the boat with his own eyes. Sam was backed into a corner but still kept denying the crime. The truth was even more horrifying. Sam didn't just trick them into going to sea, but also secretly cut the fuel line of the yacht. When Play tried to drive the boat back to shore to avoid the storm, she was terrified to find fuel leaking, and the engine stopped working in the middle of the huge ocean. In the middle of the violent storm, Play gave the only life buoy to Do because she didn't want anything bad to happen to her sister. But Do pushed the buoy back to Play. While the two sisters were pushing it back and forth, a massive wave hit and swept them both down to the deep dark ocean. Do was a high-class lady with weak physical strength, so she quickly got exhausted and started sinking. Play panicked and dove down to save her sister, but human strength has its limits, and the buoy was also swept away by the waves. Both of them slowly lost consciousness in the middle of the vast ocean. Luckily, Prince Noi and the two brothers went out on a boat just in time for the rescue. Seeing the buoy and Play's scarf floating on the water, The two brothers immediately jumped into the sea and saved them both, bringing them back to the villa. Play had been used to the water since she was a kid, so she woke up pretty fast. Meanwhile, Do was still in a deep coma, making Pooh go crazy with worry. Only when the doctor announced she was out of danger did everyone breathe a sigh of relief. When she heard the news that the two were still alive, Sam couldn't help but blurt out a cold sentence, expressing her anger because her plan didn't succeed. Those cruel words left Thana stunned, and his whole body froze up. He couldn't believe the woman who was about to become his wife could say such poisonous words. In that moment, horror rose in his heart as he realized the true person behind the gentle look that Sam had always hidden. Just as the atmosphere in the room was still heavy from that shock, the door suddenly burst open. Pa stormed in with a determined face, his eyes full of rage. Without letting anyone react, he bluntly exposed everything. According to Pa, Play had told him all the truth she knew. Sam was the one behind every plot, the one who secretly planned to harm them. Those accusations rang out like a lightning bolt in the air, making the atmosphere in the room immediately turn suffocatingly tense. Backed into a corner, Sam screamed like a maniac, blaming Pa for dumping her, and blaming the whole world for treating her unfairly. To end everything, Pa publicly revealed the terrifying secret that Sam was the one who pushed Grandma into the river. The shocking truth made everyone feel disgusted and turn their backs on her. Even Thana, who loved her rebellious side, firmly canceled the engagement because he couldn't accept someone who had lost their humanity like that. Sam was completely empty-handed, abandoned by everyone she loved. The only person Sam could still lean on now was her own dad. However, the hate in her heart was too big. She would rather accept losing everything, even her life, than go back to him, because in her heart, the resentment about him remarrying Calm had never faded. Carrying the overwhelming despair and resentment, Sam wandered to the beach in a state of mental breakdown. Her steps were shaky on the sand, and her eyes were vacant as if she were lost in another world. The waves crashed down, mixing with the chaotic thoughts in her head, making her sink deeper and deeper into a delirium. In that panic, Sam suddenly saw an illusion appearing in the middle of the sea. In front of her was the image of her late mother, Ko, standing in the water, quietly reaching out her hand to call her. That familiar image made Sam's heart shake violently, and all her reason seemed to disappear. In extreme despair, she choked up and called out, her voice shaking and breaking. She begged her mom to take her along, because in her messy thoughts right now, she believed she had nowhere left to go. No home waiting for her anymore. Sam walked away from the shore while crying, and the cold seawater slowly swallowed her up. The evil girl who turned the whole family upside down finally chose to end her own life, taking all her jealousy and hate to the bottom of the ocean. A few days later, Sam's funeral took place in a sad atmosphere. Calm also came to say her last goodbye. After all the storms, the ones who stayed finally found peace, but the pain Sam left behind will definitely haunt them forever. A month later, the dream wedding of Play and Pa officially took place. Even though Am wore fancy makeup to her daughter's wedding, her dream of becoming Lady Thong went up in smoke. She stayed just a common worker. Meanwhile, the couple Do and Pooh also had a happy ending. Pooh was still like the brave tin soldier in the fairy tale, promising to protect his own dancer for his whole life. And that is also the end of today's movie. Thank you guys for patiently watching until the very last minute. If you love the content, please hit like, share your thoughts in a comment, and subscribe to the channel to keep joining us for the exciting movies coming up.